Chapter 3:17. Wei Meidai's eyes were filled with disbelief. Ever since she was discovered to have the talent to become an alchemist, she had always been obsessed with alchemy. Her talent was already very good, but now she was only participating in the first-grade alchemist exam. In her opinion, apart from Lu Qingyue, this abnormal talent in alchemy, there was absolutely no other person. Little girl, you already passed the first-grade alchemist exam. Tong Qingyuan didn't doubt Bailey Hongzhuang because of this. Geniuses were always rare, but it didn't mean that they didn't exist. At least, their alchemist guild had a living example. Lu Qingyue was a rare genius alchemist in Songlan City. Bailey Hongzhuang slightly shook her head. No. He. Wei Meidai's cold voice immediately rang out. Hey, I say, if you want to brag, you should be a bit more reliable. Second-grade alchemist. Are you still dreaming? Because Tong Qingyuan was present, Wei Meidai's courage also increased a bit. She believed that Bailey Hongzhuang absolutely wouldn't dare to make a move in front of Tong Qingyuan. Bailey Hongzhuang indifferently glanced at Wei Meidai. You don't have the ability, but that doesn't mean I don't. Such an arrogant sentence. Bailey Hongzhuang's tone was calm and natural. It was clearly a provocative sentence, but she said it with indifference. Tong Qingyuan's eyes slightly changed. Bailey Hongzhuang's tone was very thought-provoking. This was already not a mutual provocation between people of the same level. Bailey Hongzhuang's tone meant that she didn't put Wei Meidai in her eyes. This was contempt from the bottom of her heart. Wei Meidai was usually arrogant, but she didn't expect that today there would be a girl even more arrogant than Wei Meidai. You said my disciple doesn't have the ability? Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, a vicissitude and sullen voice suddenly rang out behind Bailey Hongzhuang. Wei Meidai's eyes lit up as if she had found her confidence. The original trace of worry disappeared in an instant. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang, her gaze was filled with pride and resentment. Master! Wei Meidai shouted loudly, her chin raised as she looked at Bailey Hongzhuang provocatively. Her master was already here. She wanted to see if this woman could still be so arrogant. Gu Zhongyin was in a very good mood today. His precious disciple was going to participate in the Grade 1 Alchemist assessment. During this period of time, he had seen Wei Meidai's hard work. He believed that as long as she performed well, it wouldn't be difficult for Wei Meidai to pass the Grade 1 Alchemist exam. However, he did not expect to see a young lady criticizing his disciple as soon as he arrived at the examination hall. If his disciple was incapable, who else could be capable? Gu Zhongyun's heart was filled with displeasure. Young people these days were like newborn calves who were not afraid of tigers. They didn't even know the other party's identity, and yet they dared to speak so arrogantly. Bailey Hongzhuang turned around slightly and saw Wei Meidai's master. The old man was about 60 years old. His beard was white, but his wrinkled face was flushed red. There was a trace of arrogance between his eyebrows, and his whole body was exuding a noble air. The old man's arrogance was different from Xinyuan Huan's innate arrogance. Instead, it was an acquired habit. As long as it was an alchemist, they would all exude such arrogance and disdain. This was because alchemists were a high and mighty profession and were used to being pursued by cultivators. Chapter 3:18. Grandmaster Gu, you've come. Tong Qingyuan saw Gu Zhongyun arrive, and his face immediately showed a respectful and polite smile. Although he and Gu Zhongyun were both alchemists, Gu Zhongyun was a third-grade alchemist while he was only a second-grade alchemist. Moreover, Gu Zhongyun was older than him and was a senior. Gu Zhongyun nodded slightly, but his gaze was locked onto Bailey Hongzhuang. What is your name? You dare to be so rude to my disciple. Gu Zhongyun's deep voice was filled with anger and questioning. Gu Zhongyun had always been famous for being protective of his own people, not to mention that Bailey Hongzhuang was talking about the disciple he was so proud of. Whether it was Fengbo country or Yinsu country, there were very few alchemists who could participate in the alchemist exam at Wei Meidai's age. Only Huan Chuyo's disciple, Lu Qingyue, was a true alchemist genius and was slightly better than Wei Meidai. Although this girl in front of him was not bad-looking, she dared to look down on his disciple. That was unforgivable. Wei Meidai stood behind Gu Songyun, her pretty face filled with a proud smile. She wanted to see if this girl would still dare to be so arrogant after her master arrived. Bailey Hongzhuang's long, shapely eyebrows slightly wrinkled, a cold light flashing through her black, beautiful eyes. What she hated the most was the other party's arrogant appearance, as if they were not on the same level. Since the other party was so rude, she had no need to answer. Respect was always between two parties. A mere third-grade alchemist did not have the qualifications to make her answer. Bailey Hongzhuang indifferently glanced at Gu Songyun and Wei Meidai, but did not answer. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude after Gu Songyun's arrival, Wei Meidai was stunned. Did this girl know her master's identity? Anyone in Songlan City who saw her master had to treat him with respect. This girl who came from God knows where actually dared to ignore her master's question. Hey, my master is asking you a question. How dare you not answer? Wei Meidai raised her voice and questioned Bailey Hongzhuang. She looked as if Bailey Hongzhuang had done something outrageous. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was slightly cold. Her ink-black phoenix eyes were cold and distant. Your questions don't mean that I have to answer. Her cold voice was pleasant to the ears, but her words caused the atmosphere to stagnate. Tong Qingyuan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise. Although he believed that this matter was largely caused by Wei Meidai's arrogance, Bailey Hongzhuang daring to treat Gu Songyun with such an attitude was really beyond his expectations. The onlooker's jaws dropped. This Bailey Hongzhuang was too bold, wasn't she? Normally, not to mention the Alchemist Guild, even in the entire Songlan City, no one dared to disrespect Gu Songyun and Wei Meidai. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang dared to disrespect Gu Songyun to his face. Not to mention other things, just this courage alone was admirable. Grandmaster Gu is famous for being stingy and protective. Bailey Hongzhuang actually dared to offend him? Wei Meidai's usual actions were all connived by Grandmaster Gu. Bailey Hongzhuang's actions really made me happy. AI, but offending Grandmaster Gu, Bailey Hongzhuang won't have a good time in Songlan City. Chapter 319. Gu Songyun's dark yellow eyes flashed with a trace of anger. He had been in Songlan City for so many years, and anyone who saw him had to respectfully call him Grandmaster. Young cultivators had always been proud to be able to speak to him, yet this little girl dared to be so disrespectful to him. Do you know that offending an alchemist is a very unwise move? His low and cold voice contained a warning. Obviously, Bailey Hongzhuang's actions had angered him. Tong Qingyuan's heart sank. Gu Songyun wasn't as magnanimous as Grandmaster Huan, who would hold a grudge over such a small matter. Bailey Hongzhuang had most likely thoroughly offended Gu Songyun today. Although he didn't know Bailey Hongzhuang, he didn't want Bailey Hongzhuang to offend such a powerful enemy. Thinking of this, Tong Qingyuan winked at Bailey Hongzhuang, hinting for her to say something soft. After all, Gu Songyun was an elder, and he believed that Gu Songyun couldn't do anything to Bailey Hongzhuang. When Bailey Hongzhuang saw Tong Qingyuan's reminder, she couldn't help but have a good impression of Tong Qingyuan. She and Tong Qingyuan didn't know each other, yet Tong Qingyuan reminded her. It could be seen that Tong Qingyuan was a very good person. However, if he wanted her to say something soft to Gu Songyun, impossible. Do you know that offending an alchemist is also a very unwise move? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into an enchanting and elegant smile, and her cold voice was also full of threats. She didn't put a mere third-grade alchemist in her eyes. She was now a second-grade alchemist. What's more, as long as her cultivation improved, refining third-grade pills wouldn't be a problem at all. As a result, Gu Songyun didn't have the slightest deterrence to her. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Gu Songyun and Wei Meidai's expressions suddenly changed. They thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely beg for mercy, but they didn't expect that not only did she not, but Bailey Hongzhuang instead threatened Gu Songyun. Gu Songyun was furious to the extreme, but in order to maintain his image, he sneered, "Since you have such courage, then tell me your name. I like to see what gives you the confidence to be so unreasonable." Rude and unreasonable? Xiao Hei had a mocking look on her face. I think this old man is the shameless one. A despicable person is invincible. This Gu Songyun and Wei Meidai are the same kind of trash. Xiao Bai's face was full of disdain. Master, he must want to take revenge on you. Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai looked displeased, but Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. There was no need for her to be angry at such a lowly fellow. I am Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang remained calm and unperturbed. She was not afraid of Gu Songyun's revenge. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's name, Tong Qingyuan's expression changed a bit. A few days ago, Bailey Hongzhuang's name had spread throughout Azure Water City. This was all because the long-lost channel opening pill had appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. The Alchemist Guild paid the most attention to pills, not to mention a long-lost pill. After hearing this news, they also wanted to contact Bailey Hongzhuang. However, Azure Water School had its own rules. No matter what organization they were from, they could not enter the school to look for students. They didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would actually come to the Alchemist Guild today. Gu Zongyin had been in seclusion researching pills these days and didn't know about the channel opening pill. Naturally, he didn't know about Bailey Hongzhuang's name. Chapter 320. Gu Zongyun's voice was cold, and his eyes were filled with anger. However, there were too many people around, and he couldn't act out on the spot. However, if he wanted to teach Bailey Hongzhuang a lesson, he had plenty of ways. At this moment, a familiar and slightly surprised voice entered everyone's ears. Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly turned around and saw Azure Water School's vice principal, Huan Chuyu, slowly walking over. His benevolent and tolerant face was filled with a slight smile. Huan Chuyu had a very deep impression of Bailey Hongzhuang. This young girl actually mastered the long-lost vibrating needle technique. It was really shocking. Vice Principal. Bailey Hongzhuang respectfully bowed and greeted. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang call Huan Chuyu as Vice Principal, Gu Zongyun immediately understood Bailey Hongzhuang's identity. Old Huan, she is a student of your school? Huan Chuyu smiled and nodded. Correct. Bailey Hongzhuang is a new student of Azure Water School this year. No wonder, she is really a newborn calf. Gu Zongyun sneered. His dissatisfaction was obvious. Old Gu, you are wrong. Huan Chuyu waved his hand. Bailey Hongzhuang is not a junior who doesn't know anything. Hearing Huan Chuyu's words, Gu Zongyun only thought that Huan Chuyu was protecting Azure Water School student. A young girl dares to speak such nonsense. Isn't she a newborn calf that is not afraid of tigers? She has not seen the dangers of the world. Huan Chuyu's gaze sized up Gu Zongyun and Bailey Hongzhuang. From Gu Zongyun's thorny attitude, he understood that there was a conflict between the two. Old Gu may not know, but in terms of medical skills, Bailey Hongzhuang is fully deserving of the title of a master. Huan Chuyu's expression was serious, and his tone was sincere. His words did not seem to be false. Everyone listened to Huan Chuyu's praise of Bailey Hongzhuang, and their eyes revealed surprise. In this huge Azure Water City, Huan Chuyu was definitely a respected master. For Bailey Hongzhuang to receive such praise from Huan Chuyu, it was a great honor. Elder Huan, what do you mean? Gu Zongyun's face was still dissatisfied, but there was a trace of doubt in his eyes. He had known Huan Chuyu for many years, so he had a certain understanding of Huan Chuyu's personality. Since Huan Chuyu said so, then there must be some truth behind it. Wei Meidai looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with displeasure. She really didn't understand what kind of background this Bailey Hongzhuang had to make Grandmaster Huan speak up for her. How hateful! Bailey Hongzhuang is a doctor who can cure the poison of the Lulin python. Huan Chuyu smiled faintly, a trace of unfathomable meaning appearing on his calm face. Following Huan Chuyu's words, everyone's expression changed. The poison of the Lulin python was a great taboo for cultivators. No cultivator wished to encounter the Lulin python because once infected with its poison, their life would be in danger. But now, Grandmaster Huan actually said that Bailey Hongzhuang could cure the poison of the Lulin python? What kind of concept was this? Gu Zongyun naturally knew how difficult it was to cure the poison of the Lulin python. Even he was helpless. How could a little girl like Bailey Hongzhuang have a solution? Elder Huan, aren't you exaggerating too much? Gu Yin was skeptical, and his words carried a trace of probing. Chapter 3:21. This time, Chui Haoyan from the special enrollment class was poisoned by the Lulin python. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang saving him, Chui Haoyan's life wouldn't be guaranteed. Huan Chuyo's smile remained. Although he didn't know what kind of expert was behind Bailey Hongzhuang, he thought highly of Bailey Hongzhuang. Whether it was her personality or her way of dealing with people, he admired her a lot. Thus, he didn't mind praising her a bit more. Many people knew that Chui Haoyan was a special enrollment student. Hearing Huan Chuyo's words, everyone's face was filled with shock. If that was the case, then what Huan Chuyu said must be true. I didn't think that Chui Haoyan's injury was cured by Bailey Hongzhuang. Yes, no wonder I saw Zhang Yinfeng thanking Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills are so good at such a young age. It's really unexpected. Tong Qingyuan's face was filled with shock. He smiled and said, "Previously, I thought that Chui Haoyan's injury could only be treated by Feng Bo Country's Godly Doctor Square. I didn't think that it would be cured by Miss Bailey." Huan Chu laughed. Feng Bo Country's Godly Doctor Square was opened by Bailey Hongzhuang. As soon as these words came out, everyone stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, dumbfounded. Although Godly Doctor Square was far away in the Imperial City, its reputation spread far and wide. Everyone knew that Godly Doctor Square could cure all kinds of illnesses. They also knew that the owner of Godly Doctor Square was young. However, no one thought that Godly Doctor Square was opened by Bailey Hongzhuang. Wasn't this age too young? I didn't hear wrongly, right? Tong Qingyuan's face was filled with disbelief. Godly Doctor Square was opened by Miss Bailey. Since ancient times, heroes come from the youth. Huan Chuyu smiled faintly. Gu Yun had also heard of Godly Doctor Square's reputation. However, he couldn't connect Godly Doctor Square with Bailey Hongzhuang. At this moment, when she recalled that he had said that Bailey Hongzhuang was a newborn calf, she felt a little embarrassed. Wei Meidai stood there in a daze. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. The owner of Godly Doctor Square was a true master of medicine. Bailey Hongzhuang. How is this possible? Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful face rippled with a faint smile. Even though Huan Chuyu praised her, she didn't reveal the slightest bit of complacency. This scene caused many people to nod secretly. This was the demeanor of a great clan. If they were like Wei Meidai, who was afraid that others wouldn't know, then they would be at a disadvantage. Even if this Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills are outstanding, she might not be good at alchemy, right? Gu Yin was still arrogant. Although doctors were very good, alchemists were obviously even better. Bailey Hongzhuang had such exquisite medical skills, but her alchemy skills were definitely not that good. After all, a person's energy was limited. Hearing this, Huan Chuyo's bright eyes flashed with a trace of doubt. Bailey Hongzhuang, you're here to participate in the alchemist exam today? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, yes. After understanding Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills and hearing that she was going to participate in the alchemist exam, everyone's expression became strange. Previously, no one knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was a doctor. They only knew that she had the long-lost channel opening pill and thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was an alchemist. Now that they knew, they couldn't believe that Bailey Hongzhuang could pass the alchemist exam. Whether it was medical skills or alchemy skills, they were both very difficult to learn. With Bailey Hongzhuang's age, it was already hard to believe that her medical skills had reached such a level. Chapter 3:22. It wasn't that everyone didn't believe in Bailey Hongzhuang's ability. Wei Meidai had been learning alchemy from Gu Yun since she was a child, but she still hadn't become a first-grade alchemist. Even so, Wei Meidai was still a genius alchemist. Because other alchemists of the same age, except for Lu Qinyue, didn't even have the qualifications to participate in the first-grade alchemist assessment. For Bailey Hongzhuang to be able to achieve such heaven-defying achievements in medicine, it was already enough to stun people. If she also had achievements in alchemy, then she wouldn't be human. Old Huan, I don't know how good Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills are, but she publicly declared that her alchemy skills are better than Meidai's. Isn't this nonsense? Gu Song-yun slightly raised his chin, his weathered face full of displeasure. The previous matter made him lose face, so no matter what, he had to get back this face from Bailey Hongzhuang. He didn't care how good Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang's alchemy skills weren't good, then it was her fault. Master, this old man is going too far. Xiaohei's face was full of resentment. This old man was really shameless. Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black, jade-like phoenix eyes were filled with a touch of coldness. She was also very disgusted with Gu Songyun. From the beginning until now, it was Gu Songyun and his master who had been looking for trouble with her. But now all the blame was pushed onto her. She had seen shameless people before, but she had never seen such a shameless person. You haven't understood my alchemy skills, so what right do you have to say that I'm talking nonsense? Her cold and indifferent words revealed a trace of provocation. Since Gu Songyun was shameless, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't need to worry about his face. Gu Songyun wanted to first talk about Bailey Hongzhuang's nonsense. Later, if Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't pass the alchemist assessment, then the one who would be embarrassed would naturally be Bailey Hongzhuang. However, he never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would actually ask him a question. Bailey Hongzhuang, my master is talking to Grandmaster Huan. How can you interrupt? Wei Meidai had been watching from the side and didn't have a chance to speak. Now that she saw Bailey Hongzhuang being disrespectful to Gu Songyun, she immediately jumped out to express her opinion. Bailey Hongzhuang raised an eyebrow and glanced at Wei Meidai teasingly. You and I don't know each other. What does it have to do with you? Wei Meidai was stunned. Why didn't Bailey Hongzhuang play her cards according to common sense? It's reasonable to say that Bailey Hongzhuang should be flustered when she put such a big hat on her head. However, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't care too much about this matter. She didn't know how to answer this question. Gu Songyun frowned. Old Huan, this student of yours is too outrageous. She really has no manners. The moment Gu Songyun said this, Bailey Hongzhuang's black eyes suddenly deepened. Then, a sharp and cold light suddenly appeared and shot straight at Gu Songyun. Although she, Bailey Hongzhuang, wasn't sure who her biological parents were, she absolutely couldn't allow others to slander them. If you have the guts, say it again. Her voice was as cold as a snowy mountain without the slightest warmth. Bailey Hongzhuang no longer had her previous gentle and indifferent appearance. Instead, it was replaced by a bone-chilling cold. Although she was very disdainful of Gu Songyun, she didn't act out because he was an elder. However, Gu Songyun was becoming more and more excessive, so she couldn't be blamed. Chapter 323. Huan Chuyu furrowed his brows. Gu Songyun's words were indeed too much. He and Gu Songyun had known each other for many years, so he had a certain understanding of the latter's petty character. Whoever angered him, he would think of ways to vent his anger. However, the person behind Bailey Hongzhuang was definitely not simple. He wasn't an ordinary person with no background. Bailey Hongzhuang's question made Gu Songyun lose face. He couldn't believe that Bailey Hongzhuang dared to say such words in front of Huan Chuyu. What did you just say? Gu Songyun's eyes were filled with anger. He gritted his teeth and asked again. He didn't believe that Bailey Hongzhuang would dare to say it again. I said, if you have the guts, then say it again. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression didn't change. Her cold voice sounded again. As the head of an aristocratic family in her previous life, she had seen countless alchemists, but no one dared to say such words to her. Even if she was reborn, she would never allow someone like Gu Songyun to humiliate her. Feeling Bailey Hongzhuang's sharp gaze, Gu Songyun's heart trembled. In this gaze, he clearly felt a strong, murderous intent. As a third-grade alchemist, he had seen many experts, but this was the first time he felt such a terrifying, murderous intent. In a split second, Gu Songyun stood there in a daze, unable to say a word. Huan Chu also noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's sharp aura, and his eyes lit up. Bailey Hongzhuang was indeed extraordinary. For such an aura to appear on a teenage girl, it was truly rare. Tong Qingyuan was secretly speechless. His fear of Bailey Hongzhuang increased. From this performance, Bailey Hongzhuang's confidence was even greater than Gu Songyun's. Seeing the atmosphere become so awkward, Huan Chuyu couldn't help but stand up to smooth things over. Since Bailey Hongzhuang and Mei Dai are here to participate in the alchemist test, why don't we start the test first? Gu Yin was standing awkwardly in his original spot. Now that Huan Chuyu had given him a way out, he took advantage of the situation and walked down. All right, I'd like to see just how amazing this Bailey Hongzhuang's alchemy skills are. Gu Yin angrily snorted, flicked his sleeves, and walked directly into the examination hall. Wei Meidai angrily glared at Bailey Hongzhuang before following Gu Yin in. Huan Chuyu shook his head. Only then did he invite Tong Qingyuan and Bailey Hongzhuang into the examination hall. After seeing Gu Yin and the others enter the assessment hall, the onlookers couldn't help feeling an itch in their hearts. Unfortunately, the assessment hall was not a place they could enter. This Bailey Hongzhuang is really bold. She treats Grandmaster Gu like this, but Grandmaster Gu can't do anything. Master Gu and Wei Meidai are usually very arrogant. It's rare for someone to make them suffer. Bailey Hongzhuang is really something. Bailey Hongzhuang is the owner of Godly Physician Square. So many people are begging her to treat their illnesses. Naturally, she wouldn't care about Master Gu. When these words came out, everyone nodded their heads. What they said was very reasonable. In terms of alchemy skills, there was still Grandmaster Huan above Grandmaster Gu. But in terms of medical skills, there was no one above Bailey Hongzhuang. In terms of talent, Bailey Hongzhuang was fully deserving of the title of Grandmaster. It was just that she was too young, so people couldn't call her a Grandmaster. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked into the assessment hall. Behind a thick black curtain, the assessment hall appeared in front of her eyes. Chapter 324. Surrounding the cauldron was a high, circular platform. Clearly, this was where the judges would be seated. Standing on this high platform, they would be able to see all the conditions of the alchemists participating in the exam. Bailey Hongzhuang, you can choose any seat and prepare to refine pills. Huan Chuyu said. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang walked down the high platform and casually stood next to a cauldron. Next, we will begin the first grade alchemist exam. I will first introduce the rules of the exam. Tong Qingyuan slowly said. Wei Meidai naturally understood the rules, but since it was Bailey Hongzhuang's first time participating in the exam, Tong Qingyuan specially introduced the rules to Bailey Hongzhuang. The pill to be refined will be randomly selected by the alchemist. You will have a total of 3 sets of ingredients. As long as you can refine a pill within the time limit, you will pass the exam. The time limit is 2 hours. Bailey Hongzhuang secretly nodded. The rules of the exam were very fair. Even for alchemists, there was a chance of failure. The higher the grade of the pill, the higher the chance of failure. The reason why there were 3 sets of ingredients was so that if the refinement failed, the alchemist could continue to refine. The failure rate had always been in existence that all alchemists took seriously. Looking at an alchemist's strength, on one hand, it was based on the highest grade of pill they could refine. On the other hand, it was based on the success rate of refining pills. It was precisely because the failure rate of refining pills was very high that every alchemist relied on countless precious ingredients. If one didn't have enough ingredients to practice, it was impossible to become an alchemist. How about I pick the exam topic today? Just as Tong Qingyuan was about to pick the topic, Gu Yin took the lead and said. Tong Qingyuan subconsciously looked towards Bailey Hongzhuang. With Gu Yin's vengeful personality, the topic he picked would not be beneficial to Bailey Hongzhuang. Noticing Tong Qingyuan's gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. With her strength, no matter what topic Gu Yin came up with, she would not be afraid. Gu Yin and Wei Meidai were unexpected variables. She also didn't want to make things difficult for Huan Chuyu and Tong Qingyuan. Since Gu Yin wants to deal with me, then let him come. In any case, she was confident that Gu Yin would be the one to be slapped in the face in the end. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had no objections, Tong Qingyuan agreed. All right. Gu Yin took out a piece of paper from the box filled with test questions, glanced at it, and said, the pill needed for today's test is Qi returning pill. As soon as he finished speaking, Gu Yin slipped the note into his sleeve. Obviously, it didn't matter what pill was actually written on that slip of paper. Hearing the words energy recovery pill, Wei Meidai's eyes lit up and her pretty face brimmed with uncontrollable joy. This qi returning pill was precisely the pill that she had been practicing refining these days. A few days ago, she had successfully refined the qi returning pill. She didn't expect that the topic of today's assessment would be the qi returning pill. Even the heavens were helping her. Thinking of this, Wei Meidai proudly glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, she wanted to see how Bailey Hongzhuang could compete with her. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't take this matter to heart. She usually refined the most qi returning pill. Previously, in order to go to Luo Yun mountain range to gain experience, she had specially refined many qi returning pills. This could be said to be the pill with the highest success rate among all the pills she had refined. Chapter 325. The Alchemist Guild's attendant quickly brought over the ingredients needed to refine the qi returning pill and placed them in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and Wei Meidai. Looking at the ingredients on the table, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't delay any longer. With a thought, the flame under the pill furnace started to burn. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang calmly preparing to refine the pill, Wei Meidai was a little surprised. The qi returning pill was one of the most difficult pills to refine among the first-grade pills. Moreover, every alchemist had a different pill formula. Although alchemists usually had the pill formulas for the most common pills on the market, the qi returning pill's pill formula was very precious, and not everyone had it. Bailey Hongzhuang's calm and composed appearance at the moment. Could it be that she was faking it? The qi returning pill isn't an easy pill to refine. Don't put on an act and just give up. Don't embarrass yourself later. Wei Meidai looked at Bailey Hongzhuang mockingly, her words full of sarcasm. No matter how Bailey Hongzhuang tried to please the crowd, she wouldn't believe that Bailey Hongzhuang could really refine the pill. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Wei Meidai indifferently. If you don't have the ability to pass the assessment, then don't chirp here. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's merciless reply, Wei Meidai was furious. She really didn't understand how Bailey Hongzhuang could be so confident. You're just a doctor, not an alchemist. Wei Meidai's eyes were filled with jealousy as she coldly said. Seeing Wei Meidai being so noisy, Bailey Hongzhuang leaned over and looked at the former condescendingly. Don't you know that Godly Dr. Square also sells pills? Wei Meidai's expression froze. She naturally knew that Godly Dr. Square sold pills, and the price of the pills was 20% higher than the market price. Even though the price was so much higher, there was still an endless stream of people going to buy the pills. A few days ago, her master had sent someone to buy a pill from Godly Dr. Square. After careful research, she found that the effects of the pills sold by Godly Dr. Square were much better than the ones circulating in the market. It was really inconceivable. Thinking of this, Wei Meidai's eyes flashed with a trace of doubt. Perhaps she could find out the secret of Godly Dr. Square's pills from Bailey Hongzhuang. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang was the owner of Godly Dr. Square. I don't know which pill master is the pill, but if someone offers a higher price, then the pill will have nothing to do with you. Don't tell me you're the one selling the pills in Godly Dr. Square. TSK, TSK. Wei Meidai laughed hysterically. Her face was filled with ridicule and sarcasm. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into an enchanting smile. Her beautiful face that could topple a nation was beautiful beyond compare. But the words that came out of her mouth made Wei Meidai stunned. It's rare for you to be smart for once. Bailey Hongzhuang's words were light as a feather, indifferent and confident. From beginning to end, Bailey Hongzhuang was like a great master, giving Wei Meidai a feeling of superiority. Wei Meidai was stunned. The mocking smile on her face disappeared with Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Impossible, impossible, this is absolutely impossible. Wei Meidai emphasized. She heard from her master that Godly Dr. Square's pills must have been refined by a master of alchemy to bring out the medicinal effects perfectly. If she had the chance to get to know him, her master would have to call him a master. Chapter 326. Ding! Tong Qingyuan struck the copper gong, signaling the start of the test. On the other side, the incense had already been lit. Bailey Hongzhuang no longer paid any attention to the noisy Wei Meidai and began to refine pills. She had refined the qi returning pill many times, so she was very familiar with the process. First, she placed a stalk of star blue into the pill furnace. The flame quickly engulfed the star blue. In her line of sight, the star blue quickly withered and turned yellow. Finally, under the purification of the flame, the impurities were all removed, leaving behind a pure powder. Bailey Hongzhuang then picked up another stalk of pill and placed it into the pill furnace. The flame engulfed it again. Under the control of Bailey Hongzhuang's mental power, the flame danced like a jumping spirit. Stalk after stalk of medicinal herbs were purified. Bailey Hongzhuang's movements were as smooth as flowing water. This flame that was hard to control in others' eyes was as docile and obedient as an obedient baby in her hands. Her delicate and beautiful face was calm and indifferent, displaying the demeanor of a master. When Huan Chuyu saw the way Bailey Hongzhuang refined the pill, his gaze gradually changed and finally turned into a flash of light. Once an expert made a move, one would know whether or not they were skilled. Bailey Hongzhuang's movements were so experienced. It was obvious that she had spent a lot of effort on refining pills. Even if it was them, their pill refining techniques wouldn't be better than hers. Bailey Hongzhuang's pill refining was like a piece of art. She was calm and composed, giving people a feeling of beauty. On the other hand, Wei Meidai's movements were slow and awkward, revealing nervousness and worry. She was afraid that the flame would go out of her control if she wasn't careful. Pill refining techniques were also the result of countless trials and tribulations. Only after going through many trials and tribulations would the sluggishness gradually disappear. Comparing the two, one could see the difference between them. Tong Qingyuan's eyes revealed a trace of admiration. Bailey Hongzhuang looks very extraordinary. Her pill refining techniques are so natural, making people gasp in amazement. There was one more thing that Tong Qingyuan did not say out loud. He felt that his alchemy skills were not as good as Bailey Hongzhuang's. It was just that he could not say it out loud. Huan Chuyu nodded slightly, his eyes filled with admiration. Bailey Hongzhuang is indeed a genius. He had seen many geniuses in the Shengxian continent, but he had never seen someone as monstrous as Bailey Hongzhuang. Others might not be able to achieve this even if they spent tens of years, but they saw this from a girl who was only in her teens. How could they not be amazed? The complacent look on Gu Songyun's face gradually dissipated. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva, unable to believe what he was seeing. At this moment, there was almost no doubt that Bailey Hongzhuang was absolutely a genuine alchemist. If Bailey Hongzhuang passed the first grade alchemist test, then he would lose all his face. However, Tong Qingyuan and Huan Chiyu's attention was currently on Bailey Hongzhuang, so they did not pay attention to his thoughts. After all the herbs had been purified, Bailey Hongzhuang closed the lid of the furnace, her spiritual power wrapping around the whole furnace. The most complicated thing was to combine the purified herbs and refine them into a dan. Huan Chuyu and the rest looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's indifferent appearance, as if she was taking a stroll in the garden. There was no doubt that she would be able to successfully refine the pills. Wei Meidai saw her master looking at Bailey Hongzhuang as if she had seen a ghost. She was puzzled and could not help but turn to look at the former. With this look, Wei Meidai was also stunned. Chapter 327. Qi. Just as Wei Meidai was puzzled, a sound was suddenly heard. Following that, a burnt smell spread out. As it turned out, when Wei Meidai was distracted, the herbs had already been burnt to ashes. Wei Meidai's face instantly turned ugly. She didn't think that her momentary distraction would cause the first set of herbs to fail. She angrily glared at Bailey Hongzhuang, only to discover that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't even look at her. When she raised her head again, she saw Gu Songyun's slightly reprimanding gaze. She didn't dare to delay any longer and quickly picked up the second set of herbs to start refining. Time slowly passed. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression didn't change, and she was confident. Finally, when a whiff of fragrance came from the pill, her delicate and beautiful mouth hooked up into a faint smile. The pill was about to be refined successfully. Huan Chuyu and Tong Qingyuan also had smiles on their faces. Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely pass the first-grade alchemist test. Wei Meidai smelled the familiar and quiet medicinal fragrance, and her face instantly turned ugly. Refined. Bailey Hongzhuang actually succeeded. She had previously said that Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't be able to refine successfully. Now that she was still purifying the pill, Bailey Hongzhuang's pill was actually about to be refined successfully. Wei Meidai's heart was abnormally chaotic. The last bit of support she had was completely gone. Thinking back to the scene that happened in the guild hall, she was afraid that after today's matter was spread out, she would lose all her face. Chi! Another familiar sound rang out. Wei Meidai's almost finished refining herbs were actually burnt to ashes again. Wei Meidai's face turned green. She wasn't proficient in controlling flames. Once her heart was in chaos, she couldn't control it. Ding. Bailey Hongzhuang flicked her white hand, and the pill furnace lid was opened. A perfectly round pill was in the pill furnace. Casually picking up the white porcelain bottle on the table, Bailey Hongzhuang placed the pill into the white porcelain bottle. Everything was so simple and orderly, as if it was formed by nature. Placing the white porcelain bottle on the table, Bailey Hongzhuang looked towards Huan Chuyu and Tong Qingyuan, who were on the stage. It's done. Huan Chuyu and Tong Qingyuan walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's table and opened the white porcelain bottle to take a look. A perfectly round and plump qi-returning pill was quietly placed within the bottle. The rich medicinal fragrance filled their nostrils. Huan Chuyu nodded, not concealing his satisfaction in the slightest. This energy-returning pill was refined very well. It could be said to be perfect. Tong Qingyuan also had a look of agreement. Indeed. So, did I pass the first-grade alchemist exam? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and asked aloud. Of course, Tong Qingyuan hurriedly replied. As a Tier 2 alchemist, he was usually sought after by everyone. However, in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, who was known as a godly doctor, he could not put on any airs. Many thanks. Bailey Hongzhuang cupped her hands and smiled. On the other side, Wei Meidai, who was completely ignored by everyone, stood awkwardly in the same spot. The stipulated time was not up yet, but everyone had clearly forgotten about her existence. Was she going to continue refining this pill or not? Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Gu Xiyun indifferently, and the corner of her mouth hooked up into a mocking smile. There was no need to say anything. The meaning was clear. Gu Xiyun's face flushed red. With a wave of his sleeve, he strode away. Let's go. Wei Meidai did not know what to do. Hearing Gu Xiyun's words, she hurriedly left. Chapter 328. Seeing Gu Xiyun and Wei Meidai leave, Huan Chuyu and Tong Qingyuan did not say anything. If I want to participate in the second-rank alchemist exam, should I continue the exam? Bailey Hongzhuang slowly spoke out her thoughts. Since she was already here, she might as well take the exam together to save herself the trouble. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Tong Qingyuan's expression changed. In his opinion, with Bailey Hongzhuang's age, passing the first-rank alchemist exam was already very difficult. He did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang still wanted to participate in the second-rank alchemist exam. After seeing Gu Xiyun get slapped in the face, he also understood that Bailey Hongzhuang was not someone who spoke without thinking. Since she said so, she must have the confidence to pass the exam. All along, he thought that only Lu Qinyue was an alchemy genius. He did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang was also one. Moreover, Bailey Hongzhuang was also proficient in medicine. Comparing the two, Bailey Hongzhuang could be called a demon. Huan Chuyu was not too surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang was not an ordinary person. It seemed that anything that happened to her would not be strange. Miss Bailey, you still cannot participate in the second-rank alchemist exam. Tong Qingyuan replied. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Her clear eyes revealed some doubts. Why? We need to first register your first-rank alchemist identity and inform the other alchemist guilds of this identity. After you receive your first-rank alchemist robe, you can then participate in the second-rank alchemist exam. Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood. So it's like this. Tong Qingyin faintly smiled. After all these are done, it will take at least a week before you can participate in the second rank alchemist exam. After all, not everyone can be like Miss Bailey, able to pass 2 ranks of the exam at once. Tong Qingyuan's honest voice was filled with sorrow. The time that Tong Qingyuan spent in the Alchemist Guild was not short. Apart from Bailey Hongzhuang, there was no one else who wanted to directly complete the second rank alchemist exam. After other alchemists passed the first alchemist exam, who knew how many years it would take before they could participate in the second alchemist exam. Even for Lu Qingyue, the time span was not short. I understand. Bailey Hongzhuang lightly nodded. Then I will participate in the second rank alchemist exam in a few days. Under Tong Qingyuan's lead, Bailey Hongzhuang left the Alchemist Guild. After the alchemist robes were made, the Alchemist Association would send someone to deliver the alchemist robes to her. As for the second rank alchemist exam, she was not in a hurry. As long as his identity as an alchemist was verified, no one would question the authenticity of the channel opening pill in his hands. The reason why she came to the Alchemist Guild was so that the auction for the 3 channel opening pills could proceed smoothly. After Bailey Hongzhuang left, Tong Qingyan looked towards Huan Chuyu. Old Huan, this Miss Bailey isn't a simple person. Huan Chuyu faintly smiled. Bailey Hongzhuang's every movement is filled with the demeanor of a great family. Her true background is definitely not simple. Then should we investigate? Huan Chuyu raised his right hand, stopping Tong Qingyuan's thoughts. No matter what her background is, it has no conflict with us. Why should we investigate? If we anger the power behind her, I'm afraid the gains won't make up for the losses. Chapter 329. The moon was bright, the stars were sparse, and the cool breeze was like water. Bailey Hongzhuang was cultivating in her room when suddenly a series of footsteps came from outside the door, followed by a knock. Hearing this familiar knocking sound, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes revealed a trace of a smile. After Xia Jiqing had come many times, she could tell that it was Xia Jiqing just by listening to the sound of her footsteps. Jiqing, you've come. Bailey Hongzhuang opened the door and welcomed Xia Jiqing in, her delicate and perfect face rippling with a gentle smile. What a coincidence. I was planning to find you tomorrow, but since you're here, I don't need to go. Hearing this, Xia Jiqing raised her eyebrows in surprise. You're looking for me for something? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, her right hand brushing her Qinquan bag, and a white porcelain bottle appeared in her hand. This is for you. Xia Jiqing took the white porcelain bottle and opened it, only to see a perfectly round pill placed inside. Her mind turned, and Xia Jiqing's eyes widened. Hongzhuang, this can't be. It can't be. Seeing Xia Jiqing's appearance of wanting to say something but not saying it, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. That's right, this is the channel opening pill. Hiss! Xia Jiqing sucked in a breath of cold air. From a moment, Bailey Hongzhuang handed the white porcelain bottle to her. She already had some guesses in her heart. But after knowing that it really was the channel opening pill, she still couldn't believe it. Such a precious pill. This is too precious. I can't accept it, Xia Jiqing said. Although she had long regarded Bailey Hongzhuang as a close friend, they hadn't known each other for long. She didn't have anything, so how could she accept such a precious gift from Bailey Hongzhuang? One had to know that ever since the news of the 3 channel opening pills being auction spread, all the students in the school were thinking of ways to bid for them. Just accept it. This pill will be of great help to us right now. Xia Jiqing shook her head. I know it a great help, but that's why I can't accept it. She sincerely regarded Bailey Hongzhuang as a friend and did not want to covet Hongzhuang's benefits. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Jiqing, I know what you're thinking. Since we're friends, there's no need to think too much. Although she and Xia Jiqing had not known each other for a long time, the two of them were extremely congenial. Seeing how serious Bailey Hongzhuang was, Xia Jiqing hesitated for a moment before accepting the channel opening pill. Hongzhuang, if you need me in the future, I will definitely not refuse. She was very touched that Bailey Hongzhuang treated her so sincerely. Xia Jiqing secretly decided that in the future, as long as Bailey Hongzhuang needed her, she would definitely do her best. That's right, Jiqing, What did you come to find me for? Bailey Hongzhuang asked, her beautiful black eyes twinkling with a smile. Oh, I almost forgot. Xia Jiqing then remembered. Actually, I didn't come for anything important. I just heard some news and came to tell you. What news? Xia Jiqing smiled. I heard today that there will be a new special enrollment student coming to the school tomorrow. You should have received the notice for tomorrow's morning meeting, right? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She had heard the news when she returned from the Alchemist Guild, but she didn't know why. Chapter 330. Yes, I have never heard of the existence of a third special enrollment student. It is precisely because of this that this special enrollment student is so special. Xia Jiqing's face was full of excitement. The status of a special enrollment student in the Azure Water School was already extraordinary, and the identity of this special enrollment student was even more special. Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes revealed a trace of doubt. She had never heard of this special enrollment student before, and Dongfang Yu and the others had never mentioned it. She believed that they also did not know of the existence of a third special enrollment student. So to speak, this third special enrollment student was really a special existence. This is not the main point. The main point is that I heard that this special enrollment student is not only strong, but also exceptionally handsome. Xia Jiqing raised her eyebrows, her eyes full of excitement. For girls of her age, there is nothing more attractive than a handsome man. Looking at Xia Jiqing's excited appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang's pretty face revealed a helpless smile. Sure enough, this was the point that Xia Jiqing was most concerned about. This third special enrollment student has not yet arrived. How do you know that he is handsome? Bailey Hongzhuang teased. Xia Jiqing blinked. There's no lack of people in the school who are well-informed. Ordinary students and special enrollment students are slightly different. To be able to become a special enrollment student, you must put all your energy into cultivation. However, ordinary students are still very interested in gossip, especially girls. Since you know, then why don't you put all your energy into cultivation? Bailey Hongzhuang found it somewhat funny. Don't you want to come to the alchemist class as soon as possible? Naturally, I want to. Xia Jiqing smiled brightly. When I was cultivating, I heard my roommate talk about it. This news is so shocking. Naturally, I couldn't help but listen for a while. Now, everyone is very curious about the identity of this special enrollment student. You know, among the special enrollment students, Gong Xiaoqing is very close to Lu Qinyue, and Dongfang Yu has a very good relationship with you. How many girls' hearts have been broken, and now only Bai Junyu is left. At this moment, hearing that there is another outstanding and handsome man coming, isn't everyone on steroids? Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. Dongfang Yu and I are just classmates. Gong Xiaoqing and Lu Qinyue's relationship was ambiguous, but there was nothing between her and Dongfang Yu. Of course I know. Xia Jiqing nodded and then spread out her hands. However, the other students don't know. Senior Dongfang has always been gentle and amiable. He's loved by all the girls in the school. Ever since you and Senior Dongfang got to know each other, everyone believed that your relationship with Senior Dongfang wasn't shallow. I've heard that many senior sisters were crying silently in the dead of night. Master, your sin is too great. Xiao He lamented. Xiao Bai nodded in agreement. If Di Beichen knew about this, he would definitely be jealous. The corner of Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth twitched. If Jiqing wasn't here, she would have sent these two fur balls flying. It's not that bad, Bailey Hongzhuang said helplessly. It seems that I have to be more careful in the future. Xia Jiqing shook her head and pulled Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, looking very serious. What does it matter? Senior Dongfang is a very good person. If you could be together with Senior Dongfang, I will be happy for you. Chapter 331. Looking at Xia Jiqing acting like a matchmaker, Bailey Hongzhuang quickly dispelled her idea. Don't think so much. There is no romantic relationship between me and Dongfang Yu. Bailey Hongzhuang explained with a beautiful smile on her delicate and perfect face. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang being so serious and not trying to hide anything, Xia Jiqing couldn't help but take a deep look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Is what you said true? You really don't have any romantic feelings for Senior Dongfang? No, I really don't. Bailey Hongzhuang was helpless. Xia Jiqing sighed, her eyebrows full of disappointment. It's a pity Senior Dongfang is such a good partner, but you don't have any ideas. It's really a pity. I don't know which woman will benefit in the future. Listening to Xia Jiqing's sigh, Bailey Hongzhuang rolled her eyes. How come she didn't know that Xia Jiqing's mind had so many messy ideas? If you're interested in Senior Dongfang, then you should take advantage of him. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Senior Dongfang is yours. I never had any ideas. Xia Jiqing quickly waved her hand. She understood that she couldn't bully her friend husband. Hee hee, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, her eyes bright and bright. I think you and Bai Junyu are good. Xia Jiqing's eyes widened. That noisy guy? I'm not interested. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Jiqing was not interested in Bai Junyu, but Bai Junyu seemed to be very interested in Jiqing. Senior Dongfang is so outstanding. Why don't you like him? Xia Jiqing's eyes narrowed, her eyes flashing with doubt. Do you already have someone in your heart? Someone in my heart. Bailey Hongzhuang's mind couldn't help but outline a pale golden figure, tall and straight, peerless. Ever since they met, he had always stood firmly by her side. When he found out that she was in danger, he left everything behind to come see her, just to make sure that she was safe. Xia Jiqing originally just wanted to test the waters, but when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang in a daze, her eyes suddenly changed. Could it be that she had hit the jackpot? Did Hongzhuang really have a sweetheart? Hongzhuang, be honest, Xia Jiqing said proudly. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Who knows what will happen in the future? Seeing Hongzhuang speak so deeply, Xia Jiqing also didn't ask more. After all, there were some secrets that no one could pry into. The next day, the sun shone brightly. The sky was high and the clouds were light. Bailey Hongzhuang woke up early in the morning. Yesterday, she had received news that the academy was going to hold a meeting this morning. Now that she thought about it, it should be to introduce the third specially recruited student. I wonder how special this third specially recruited student is. To be able to make the academy make an exception for him, this third specially recruited student is naturally not simple. However, the monster tide this time has caused the academy to lose a lot of talents, so it's reasonable to expand the enrollment. Bailey Hongzhuang walked slowly with Baishe in her arms. Along the way, she heard everyone talking about the third specially recruited student. When Bailey Hongzhuang arrived, Dongfang Yu and the others had already arrived. As the backbone of the academy, they had already come early to help prepare. Only Bai Junyu and Cui Haoyan had not yet recovered from their injuries. Bailey Hongzhuang, you're here. His handsome face revealed a warm and elegant smile. Dongfang Yu greeted Bailey Hongzhuang as soon as he saw her. Chapter 332. Generally, the students of our special enrollment class would come early for the morning meeting. You and Bai Junyu are newcomers, so there's no need for that. Lu Qinhue walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side, her eyes shining. Hongzhuang, I heard you passed the first grade alchemist exam yesterday. Lu Qinhue was Huan Qiu's disciple, so Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't surprised that she heard the news so early. She immediately nodded in acknowledgement. Your speed is really fast. Lu Qinhue chuckled. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. In 5 days, I will begin auctioning off the channel opening pills. Taking the exam early is also to prevent people from gossiping. Did you hear? There's a third special enrollment student coming to the school today. Lu Qinyue's delicate and beautiful face was filled with curiosity. This is the first time in the history of the Azure Water School. Thinking about it, this new student shouldn't be a simple character. Dongfang Yu raised his eyebrows, his flirtatious peach blossom eyes filled with an enchanting smile. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly, declining to comment. No matter what kind of special character the other party was, it didn't matter to her. While everyone was talking, the principal and vice principal had already slowly walked over. Hello, principal. Hello, vice principal. Seeing the principal and vice principal, all the students saluted and greeted them. The two principals walked up the stage together. Looking at the many students gathered below, a kind and gratified smile appeared on their faces. Today, I've gathered everyone here to introduce a new special enrollment student. Principal Run Tianxiong got straight to the point. As a cultivator, he didn't like to waste time on unnecessary formalities. What he adhered to was that cultivators were straightforward and straightforward. Once these words came out, all the students' eyes were filled with curiosity. It seemed that the rumors they heard were true. They just didn't know who this third special enrollment student was. To be able to receive an exceptional admission from the Azure Water School and receive a grand introduction from the principal and vice principal. This wasn't treatment an ordinary person could receive. As soon as Run Tianxiong finished speaking, a man slowly walked up the stage. The man wore a light golden soft robe, and his figure was tall and straight. His ink-black hair was tied up with a crown made of suet jade, and his chiseled face was peerlessly handsome. His long eyebrows reached his temples, and his narrow eyes were deep. He had a graceful bearing and was as calm as the wind. The golden sunlight shone on his tall and straight figure, making him look like a god. Everyone below the stage looked at the specially recruited student on the high platform and let out a gasp of surprise. Heavens, the rumors are indeed true. This new special enrollment student is really a rare handsome man. This is the first time I've seen such a good-looking person. I'm drunk. She's the woman of my dreams. All the women present went crazy. Gong Xiaoqing and Dongfang, you had always been their dream lovers. It's just that Gong Xiaoqing and Lu Qinyue were extremely close. Dongfang Yu also seemed to have a close relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang. They probably didn't have any hope. Now, this third special enrollment student had surpassed Gong Xiaoqing and Dongfang Yu. Compared to Gong Xiaoqing's coldness and Dongfang Yu's gentleness, this third special enrollment student was noble. He seemed to be a natural aristocrat. His every movement exuded an innate, noble aura, making people intoxicated. Chapter 333. Some people, even if they don't say anything, do nothing, just stand there quietly, and you can feel their extraordinariness. This special enrollment student just stood on a high platform, and a natural momentum spread out, making everyone not dare to underestimate him. Even the experienced and knowledgeable Gong Xiaoqing and Dongfang Yu felt a trace of shock in their hearts. They were also outstanding talents, so this feeling was even more obvious. This special enrollment student is definitely not simple. Below the stage, Xinyuan Huan stared at the figure standing on the high platform, his eyes full of disbelief. Impossible! This is impossible! Xinyuan Huan kept shouting in his heart. This can't be true. Isn't he a cripple? He has been sitting in a wheelchair for so many years. How can he stand up now? In the past few years, Di Beichun has always been the target of his bullying and sarcasm. The mud he ruthlessly trampled under his feet. But now, this piece of mud had the appearance of a peerless talent and had completely defeated him. How can there be a day when he can stand up? Xiao Zifen also stared blankly at Di Beichun on the stage. Di Beichun has always been very famous in the imperial city. He has seen the handsome and perfect, but unfortunately, he is a cripple Prince Chun. Only in front of him, this elegant young master exuding a noble aura. Where is the slightest sign of a cripple? Xiao Zifen couldn't help but think of the waste Bailey Hongzhuang, who has been ridiculed by everyone these years. Didn't she also wash away the shame under everyone's shock and become a first-class genius? In his mind, the rumor of the imperial city slowly emerged. A blind man and a cripple, a match made in heaven. Now it seems that Prince Chun and Bailey Hongzhuang really are a match made in heaven. Only this could be called a perfect match made in heaven. Looking at the pale golden figure, Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes that were as calm as an ancient well rippled, revealing shock and surprise, and even a trace of surprise. Di Beichun has always told her that he will come to find her when he is done. Only, she didn't expect Di Beichun to appear in front of her in such an unexpected way. Kanglin School's special enrollment? Could it be that he wanted to stay at the Azure Water School to cultivate? Di Beichun is here. That's right. It's really exciting. He must be worried about Master staying here. Xiao Hei and Xiao Ba were jumping around excitedly. Bailey Hongzhuang felt as if there were two balls rolling around on her head. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Did these two fellows have any awareness of being pearl hair clips? If other people were to see the hair clip rolling around on her head, wouldn't they be shocked? Fortunately, everyone's attention was now on Di Bei-chun, who was on the high platform, and no one noticed this. I am Di Bei-chun, and I'm honored to be a member of Tsanglan College. His deep and mellow voice was full of magnetism. Di Bei-chun's handsome eyebrows carried a handsome smile, and his eyes, undisguised, looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in the crowd. Wearing a white dress, she was quiet and beautiful. Even standing in the crowd, she was still so conspicuous, like a luminous pearl, dazzling and captivating. Noticing Di Bei-chun's gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth slightly rose, and a little bright smile appeared in her eyes. Di Bei-chun's mouth also evoked a smile, handsome and extraordinary. Chapter 334. I believe everyone already knows about the demonic beast tide that appeared in the Luo Yun mountain range. Many students were killed in the demonic beast tide. Ren Tianxiong's expression was heavy. Usually, students would go to the Luo Yun mountain range to train and complete missions. This rare demonic beast tide was really unexpected. In the history of the Azure Water School, there had never been such a large number of casualties. His mood was very heavy. The students under the stage all nodded after hearing this. They all understood that this matter was very serious. A classmate that they used to cultivate with had fallen just like that and would never come back. Everyone was feeling very sad. After discussing with the vice principal, we have decided to make an exception and recruit a new batch of students. Ren Tianxiong slowly said. With the current situation of the school, this was the only solution. The students all showed an understanding expression. The Azure Water School had always adhered to the principle of choosing the best and not the most. Therefore, the number of students in the school was not many. After the demonic beast tide, the number of students in the school became even less. Under these circumstances, it was also very good to recruit a new batch of students. Ren Tianxiong and Huan Chuyu discussed for a few days before making this decision. Although the quality of the students recruited under these circumstances would be slightly worse, they still maintained the principle of choosing the best. Filling the student pool was also very important. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a complicated light. It seems that the principal and vice principal made this decision after careful consideration. Gong Shaoqing, I'll leave Di Bei-chun's residence to you. Huan Chuyu looked at Gong Shaoqing and said. Gong Shaoqing nodded and replied, I understand. Huan Chuyu nodded slightly and looked at Dongfang Yu. You bring Di Bei-chun to familiarize himself with the school's environment. Vice principal, you can rest assured. Ren Tianxiong explained a few more things in the school before leaving with Huan Chuyu. Following the departure of the two, the originally quiet morning field suddenly became lively. The gazes of the female students condensed on Di Bei-chun. They were too curious about Di Bei-chun. Gong Shaoqing was already taken, so Dongfang Yu didn't have much hope. This Di Bei-chun had just arrived at the academy, so they had to seize this opportunity. There was no lack of bold women in the crowd. Looking at the extraordinarily handsome Di Bei-chun, who was still standing on the high platform, they shouted, Di Bei-chun, do you have a woman you like? Hua! As soon as these words came out, the crowd went into an uproar. However, there were even more people who were jeering. The woman was hidden in the crowd, and no one knew who had shouted. Xia Jiqing's face showed a touch of amazement. I didn't expect the women of our Kanglan College to be so open. However, this Di Bei-chun is just like what I heard. He's even more handsome than Dongfang Yu and the others. Xia Jiqing excitedly touched Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder and smiled. Don't you think so? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and couldn't deny it. Di Bei-chun had always been outstanding, and this excellence had far exceeded the standard of excellence in the eyes of ordinary people. Dongfang Yu and Gong Shaoqing also looked at Di Bei-chun with interest. As men, they could feel that Di Bei-chun was definitely a very outstanding man. Chapter 335. Lu Qingyue's beautiful eyes also showed curiosity. She had always thought that Gong Dage was outstanding enough. However, when she saw Di Bei-chun for the first time, she felt that Di Bei-chun was different from the rest. He was extraordinary and could even be called perfect. This was the combination of nobility and God. Even if she didn't understand his strength, from the confident smile on Baichen's face, it wasn't hard to guess that his strength was absolutely not weak. Hong Zhuang, do you think Baichen has a sweetheart? Xia Jiqing didn't hide her curiosity at all. She tilted her head and asked Bailey Hong Zhuang, just as everyone was curiously looking at Baichen, wanting to know how Baichen would answer. Baichen's gaze fell on Bailey Hong Zhuang's body. Baichen's beautiful pink lips curled up in an evil smile. His eyes revealed a bit of craftiness. Looking at Baichen's smile, Bailey Hong Zhuang instinctively felt that things weren't good. She was afraid that, just as Bailey Hong Zhuang was about to leave, Baichen's voice suddenly rang out. Sorry, this one already has a wife. As soon as these words came out, the scene was once again in an uproar. Everyone was stunned. Although there was no lack of cultivators present who had already married, outstanding men like Baichen had always married relatively late. What's more, to be able to make Baichen so calmly admit it, this wife must have made Baichen very satisfied. Dongfang Yu's amorous peach blossom eyes revealed a bit of smile. This new special enrollment student's temperament is really calm. Saying this, Dongfang Yu's gaze couldn't help but look at Gong Xiaoqing and the others. But when he saw Bailey Hong Zhuang's slightly strange expression, he frowned. Bailey Hong Zhuang, what's wrong? Lu Qinyue and Xia Jiqing also looked at Bailey Hong Zhuang and wondered, Hong Zhuang, what are you doing? However, Gong Xiaoqing noticed the way Baichen looked at Bailey Hong Zhuang. He had a vague premonition. It seemed like Baichen and Bailey Hong Zhuang knew each other. Baichen's reply undoubtedly hurt the hearts of the girls who were full of expectations. It was rare for the academy to have such a handsome and extraordinary man, but he was already married. Didn't that cut off all their hopes? It was unknown whether Baichen was too outstanding or if the female student was joking, but a voice rang out again. Then, do you mind having another wife? Following this, the cheers grew even louder. Even the group of male students had the mentality of watching a good show. In the Shengxian continent, polygamy was a normal thing, especially outstanding men. Having several beautiful wives following behind them was a very normal thing. However, Baichen had only just arrived at the Azure Water School. Everyone didn't even have the slightest understanding of Baichen, but there were already girls who wanted to devote themselves to him. It really made people sigh with emotion. Baichen's mouth hooked up in an evil and elegant arc. He walked down the high platform and slowly walked towards Bailey Hong Zhuang. As for this, it depends on whether my wife allows it or not. Then, under the shocked eyes of the crowd, Baichen walked to Bailey Hong Zhuang's side and directly put his hand on Bailey Hong Zhuang's shoulder. Baichen's smile was warm and elegant, like cherry blossoms in March, gentle and intoxicating. Wife, am I right? Baichen's words were like a heavy bomb that exploded in an instant. Chapter 336. Xia Jiqing stared blankly at Bailey Hong Zhuang and Baichen. Previously, she had jokingly made a bet with Hong Zhuang about whether or not Baichen had a wife. She didn't expect that the wife Baichen spoke of was actually Hong Zhuang. This scene had changed too quickly. She couldn't change it at all. Lu Qinyue was stunned. She looked at Bailey Hong Zhuang and Gong Xiaoqing in astonishment. This was too unexpected. Dongfang Yu and Gong Xiaoqing's expressions weren't much better. Before Baichen said this, they simply couldn't relate Bailey Hong Zhuang to Baichen. Dongfang Yu's heart was stunned. He had previously inquired a lot about Bailey Hong Zhuang, but he had never heard that Bailey Hong Zhuang was already married. Everyone's eyes fell on Bailey Hong Zhuang. Whether this was true or not, they would have to see Bailey Hong Zhuang's reply. Bailey Hong Zhuang helplessly looked at the handsome face in front of her. From the moment this guy appeared, she had already expected this scene to happen. Explain? She had no way to explain. Deny it? This was the truth. How could she deny it? Since it didn't work, she could only admit it. What do you think? Bailey Hong Zhuang's beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of craftiness. If you are willing, I naturally have no problem. Baichen had kicked this question to her. She didn't want to be the villain who would shatter the hearts of thousands of young girls. It was better to directly throw this question back. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's undeniable answer, everyone had to believe that Bailey Hongzhuang was Di Beichen's wife. This discovery made the girls of the school completely collapse. Before, Dongfang Yu was the male god in everyone's mind. Who would have thought that since Bailey Hongzhuang came to the school, Dongfang Yu would be very close to her, causing everyone to be heartbroken. Now they had finally welcomed a new male god. This was only the first day he came to the school, but he was already Bailey Hongzhuang's husband? The one who strikes first gains the advantage, and the one who strikes later suffers. But Bailey Hongzhuang's speed was too fast, right? Did she want people to live? Did she want them to have a trace of hope in their hearts? At this time, not only were the hearts of the female students broken, the male students who admired Bailey Hongzhuang were also broken. Bailey Hongzhuang was the new goddess in their minds. Who would have thought that she would fall in Bailey Hongzhuang? They didn't have the slightest hope. Now, they didn't have any hope at all. How was he a special enrollment student of the school? He clearly came to school to find his wife. Seeing the sly look in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, Di Beichen's black as jade eyes were filled with a touch of pampering and nostalgia. When he first met Bailey Hongzhuang, she was also sly, directly reaching out to him and asking for 100 gold coins. Now seeing her still standing in front of him, his heart had an indescribable joy. Fortunately, she was still well. Wife, if you say so, your husband will be sad. Di Beichen smiled evilly. My heart has always only held you. There is no room for anyone else. Everyone looked at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's high-profile display of affection. The whole square was scattered with the sound of heartbreak. Was it necessary? Was it necessary? Such a blatant confession simply didn't give them any chance at all. Chapter 337. Xia Jiqing looked at Di Beichen's affectionate expression. She finally understood why Hongzhuang didn't have the slightest bit of romantic feelings for Dongfang Yu. It turned out that an even better man had already appeared in her life. Although she didn't understand Di Beichen's situation, at this moment, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang standing together were truly a match made in heaven. Di Beichen was handsome, dashing, and confident, while Bailey Hongzhuang was a stunning beauty. That light golden figure and that white figure intertwined, creating an indescribable harmony. She believed that with Hongzhuang's excellence, her husband would definitely not be a mediocre person. This new special enrollment student must have a lot of extraordinary aspects. Bailey Hongzhuang listened to Di Beichen's corny words and only felt a burst of uneasiness. This guy really didn't care about where he was speaking. Dongfang Yu looked at the golden couple Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang standing to the side. His peach blossom eyes that had been filled with a smile had unknowingly restrained a bit. The originally relaxed smile had disappeared and was replaced by a touch of deep sadness. It was as if the originally bright and beautiful sunny day had suddenly turned into rain. There wasn't the slightest bit of sunshine, only depression and gloom. He didn't know why, but Dongfang Yu only felt that the two people standing together were too dazzling, making his heart feel a bit stifled. Gong Shaoqing still had an unshakable iceberg face. But when Bailey Hongzhuang admitted her relationship with Di Beichen, a ripple appeared in his calm eyes. This sudden turn of events was far beyond his expectations. This was something that no one had expected. Lu Qingyue's mouth blossomed into a deep smile. When no one was paying attention, she quietly let out a sigh of relief. Her eyebrows revealed relief and relaxation. Di Beichen, since you're a new special enrollment student, I'll arrange for your room to be next to Bailey Hongzhuang's. How about it? Dongfang Yu quickly concealed the sadness in his eyes, and the corner of his mouth blossomed into his usual gentle smile. Di Beichen was supposed to stay with Bailey Hongzhuang, and by Junyu since they were all specially recruited students of the same grade. Although Dongfang Yu covered it up very quickly, it still didn't escape Di Beichen's eyes. He nodded slightly. Thank you. It seems that his Wang Fei's charm really wasn't small. Even Dongfang Yu, who had never been moved by any woman, was moved. As the morning assembly ended, the other students dispersed. Before they returned, they were filled with anticipation. After the meeting, they were heartbroken. Now that they no longer had any thoughts, there was no point in continuing to stay here. Xiao Zifen slowly walked towards Bailey Hongzhuang. After all, he knew her. Since Di Beichen was here, he should come and say hello. Chen Wangya. Xiao Zifen cupped his hands and said, I didn't expect you to also come to Kanglin College. Although he knew Di Beichen before, he had never communicated with Di Beichen. He understood that the current Chen Wangya was no longer the same as before. From the moment he stood up, he was no longer the Chen Wangya who was bullied everywhere. What's more, Kanglin College didn't accept incompetent people. Since Di Beichen was able to become a special enrollment student of Kanglin College, this proved that Di Beichen's strength was also very outstanding. Thinking of this, Xiao Zifen's heart was filled with emotion. Chapter 338. Di Beichen's eyes fell on Xiao Zifen. From Heimu's mouth, he had learned how Xiao Zifen and Hong Zhuang met. Di Beichen appreciated and was satisfied that Xiao Zifen was able to stand on Bailey Hongzhuang's side in the face of the Hellwolves. Di Beichen's thin lips slightly raised. Hong Zhuang is here, so I naturally have to come. Xiao Zifen smiled slightly. He had long heard that the relationship between Chen Wangya and Chen Wangfei was very good. Seeing it today, it really lived up to its reputation. Xin Yuanhuan was not far away from Xiao Zifen and Di Beichen's conversation. The shock in his heart had not calmed down. How was this Di Beichen the same as the waste he had bullied before? For 3 years, Di Beichen had never stood up. How could he suddenly stand up? Could it be Di Beichen's sudden departure was to treat his leg? Xin Yuanhuan's mind turned 1,000 times. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that this matter was inconceivable. It seemed that he had to quickly send this news back to confirm it. When Dongfang Yu and the others heard Xiao Zifen's name for Di Beichen, their eyes were filled with a trace of astonishment. Chen Wangya. Xia Jiqing's eyes widened. Di Beichen is a Wangya? Xiao Zifen nodded. Yes, he's a Chen Wangya. Xia Jiqing was speechless. So, Hong Zhuang, aren't you a Wangfei? Although they came to Tsanglan School with the status of a student, but the status of a prince and a princess was still extremely noble. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slightly curved. She did not care much about this identity. She had been the young miss of the general's household for 15 years. Was her identity not noble? But in fact, she had survived under the disdain and trampling of others for 15 years. It was because of this that she did not care about these identities. Di Beichen also didn't know how to react. To him, being a prince wasn't an honor, but a disgrace. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's indifferent and even disdainful attitude made them seem even more superior in everyone's eyes. They clearly had such honorable identities, yet they were able to hide it all this time. It could be seen how extraordinary their temperaments were. Waves of shock surged in Dongfang Yu's heart. Previously, he had inquired about Bailey Hongzhuang's life in the general's household, but he didn't know what happened afterwards. It turned out that the current Bailey Hongzhuang was no longer the miss of the general's mansion, but Princess Chun of Fengbo State. Bailey Hongzhuang is Di Beichen's first time at Tsanglan School. Why don't you show him around? We'll go back first. Dongfang Yu's expression was gentle, and the corner of his mouth was as warm as a peach blossom smile. It was impossible to see through his inner feelings. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment, then nodded. Okay. Even if she went back now, Di Beichen would still look for her. It just so happened that she also had some things to discuss with Di Beichen. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang so frankly agree, Dongfang Yu's heart felt even more stifled. He immediately found an excuse to leave. Gong Xiaoqing looked at Dongfang Yu's back as he left, and then looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, who didn't seem to notice. His gaze was slightly complicated. He and Dongfang Yu had been good friends for many years. How could he not know what the latter was thinking? Big brother Gong, Hong Zhuang, and Di Beichen haven't seen each other for a long time. They must have a lot to talk about. Why don't we go first? Lu Qingyue's delicate face rippled with a faint and gentle smile. Her voice was light and cheerful. Chapter 339. Hong Zhuang, Xiao Zifen, and I will also leave first. Xia Jiqing excitedly blinked at Bailey Hongzhuang. It was said that absence makes the heart grow fonder. If they continued to stay here, it would be too much of a hindrance. Bailey Hongzhuang noticed everyone's ambiguous gazes, but didn't say anything to explain. She understood that in this situation, even if she explained, no one would believe her. In this case, it was better not to explain. If everyone misunderstood, then let them be. Seeing that everyone had disappeared in a flash, Bailey Hongzhuang was a little helpless and turned to look at Di Beichen next to her. "Are you done with your business?" According to her understanding, Di Beichen had stayed in Fengbo country for 3 years, so there must be a mess behind him. It was definitely not easy to deal with it. However, Di Beichen had not left for long. Could it be that he had dealt with everything in such a short time? If this was the case, then Di Beichen's efficiency in dealing with things was not ordinary. "If I didn't come back, I'm afraid that my wife would have run away with someone else." Di Beichen's mouth had a charming smile, and his low and magnetic voice was full of charm and teasing. However, there was a trace of indescribable seriousness in the depths of his dark eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang was sluggish. This guy really could say anything he wanted to say. It was originally a very normal thing, but why did it sound like she was having an affair when it came out of his mouth? Xiao He and Xiao Bai looked at each other. Sure enough, this was Di Beichen's style. Haha. Bailey Hongzhuang's Baisher also looked at Di Beichen. This was the second time it had seen Di Beichen since the last time it bathed in the world. However, when it thought of the last time, it was really embarrassing. Baisher lowered its head again and arched in Bailey Hongzhuang's arms. It was a very shy beast. Nonsense, Bailey Hongzhuang refuted. She knew that the two restless fellows above her must be laughing at her in their hearts. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Beichen's eyes lit up and the smile on his face became even more beautiful and enchanting. "In that case, even if I'm not by wife's side, wife's heart is still concerned about me." Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. She angrily stared at the devilish face in front of her. This was a trap. This was a huge trap. Di Beichen had clearly calculated everything. No matter how she answered, she would definitely fall into his trap. "You think too much." Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes and spoke with a hint of coldness. However, Di Beichen was completely unaware of it. The smile on his face was still brilliant, and the gaze he used to look at Bailey Hongzhuang with was still gentle. He tightened his grip on Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. "Today is really a good day. I am in a very good mood to be able to see my wife again." Bailey Hongzhuang then noticed that Di Beichen's hand was still on her shoulder. She could not help but ask, "Can you let go of this hand now?" Di Beichen raised his brows. He did not want to let go, but when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang's cold expression, he quietly let go. "Of course, I will listen to my wife's words." Bailey Hongzhuang furrowed her brows. "Don't tell me you are too immersed in your role. I'm not your wife." As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, the smile on Di Beichen's face faded a little, and his eyes became a little more serious. "Don't tell me you don't want to be my wife?" Chapter 340. However, just when Bailey Hongzhuang thought that Di Beichen finally understood, the latter's voice suddenly rang out. "Then, this prince will call you Princess Consort. I'm not your wife, nor am I your Princess Consort." Bailey Hongzhuang emphasized. Was this guy clear about their relationship, or was Di Beichen trying to confuse their relationship? Okay, whatever you say," Di Beichen hurriedly said. "Then, I'll call you Zhuang, or little sweetheart. I'll call you whatever you like, how about it?" Di Beichen was full of smiles. His originally handsome face, coupled with this bright smile, was like the brightest pearl, dazzling people's eyes. However, in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, it wasn't the case. "Really?" Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth hooked up in an enchanting smile. "You'll call me whatever I like?" "Of course." Di Beichen blinked his starry eyes, his expression sincere and gentle. "But if you call me Bailey Hongzhuang or something like that, it won't show how close we are." Bailey Hongzhuang was defeated. She shouldn't have discussed this with this guy. After all, in terms of shamelessness, she was definitely not Di Beichen's opponent. After Dong Fangyu returned to his room, Gong Xiaoqing and Lu Qinyue went to find him. "Dong Fang, when you were investigating earlier, Why didn't you find out that Bailey Hongzhuang is Princess Consort Chen? Gong Xiaoqing asked in a deep voice. What happened today was truly beyond their expectations, catching them completely off guard. Dongfang Yu sighed slightly. I only asked about Bailey Hongzhuang and the general's estate, but I didn't ask about what happened after she left the general's estate. He remembered that at that time, the other party seemed to want to say something to him, but someone happened to come looking for him, so he didn't say anything. I see. Gong Xiaoqing's expression was complicated. I've always heard that Fengbo Country's Prince Chun is a peerless talent, but his legs are crippled. Today I see that he is a dragon among men. A surprised expression appeared on Lu Qinyue's elegant and beautiful face. Di Beichun is the crippled prince of Fengbo Country? Fengbo Country's crippled prince was very famous, but she only knew about the crippled prince. She didn't know that this prince was Di Beichun. In that case, it's amazing that Hong Zhuang and Di Beichun are together. Lu Qinyue couldn't hide the surprise in her eyes. The situation of Hong Zhuang and Di Beichun before was too similar. After the marriage, the two people were like different people. Looking at Hong Zhuang and Di Beichun now, no one would be able to connect them with the bullied miss of the general's estate and the crippled prince. Dongfang Yu and Gong Xiaoqing's expressions were also very strange. It seemed that this matter was really too bizarre. Bailey Hongzhuang's change was already hard to believe, and now there was another Di Beichun. It was really too shocking. Suddenly, Gong Xiaoqing's eyes lit up. Bailey Hongzhuang is a godly doctor. Could it be that she cured Di Beichun's legs? When these words came out, Dongfang Yu and Lu Qinyue's eyes lit up. From a matter of Bailey Hongzhuang curing Cui Haoyan, it could be seen that the poison that even the vice principal was helpless against was easily cured by Bailey Hongzhuang. It could be seen that Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were brilliant. Chapter 341. I'm afraid that's the case. Dongfang Yu's eyes flashed with a pondering light as he nodded his head. Bailey Hongzhuang was indeed a strange woman. Her appearance caused the people around her to undergo earth-shattering changes. This Di Beichun is also not a simple character. Gong Xiaoqing's eyes were deep and distant. Previously, I only heard that Fengbo Country's Prince Chun was born with a disability and was bullied everywhere. But since his legs were healed, his strength has also become so strong. It can be seen that his cultivation is not something that can be done overnight. At least, his cultivation. I can't see through it. Gong Xiaoqing's deep and magnetic voice was filled with complex emotions. His face was grave and stern, and it was impossible to see his emotions. Dongfang Yu nodded his head in agreement. Yes, his strength is unfathomable. Hearing Gong Xiaoqing and Dongfang Yu's words, Lu Qinyue's eyes widened in disbelief. You too can't see through his strength? As everyone knows, when the difference in strength is large, the weaker cultivator can't see through the cultivation of the stronger cultivator. Since Gong Xiaoqing and Dongfang Yu can't see through it, it proves that Di Beichun's strength is not ordinary. Even if Di Beichun is slightly older than them, such a large gap in strength is still amazing. It seems that Di Beichun's purpose is not to come to Azure Water School to cultivate. I'm afraid it's completely for Bailey Hongzhuang. Gong Xiaoqing's cold voice was filled with certainty. With just a little thought, he could judge everything. This Prince Chun is definitely not a simple person, and Bailey Hongzhuang is very important to him. Dongfang Yu's slightly red peach blossom eyes were filled with wisdom, but a trace of bitterness quietly emerged in his heart. With Di Beichun's strength, there is no need for him to waste time at Azure Water School. But for Bailey Hongzhuang, he specially came. From this, it can be seen how important Bailey Hongzhuang is in Di Beichun's heart. Whether it was appearance or strength, Di Beichun was impeccable. Coupled with the sincerity towards Bailey Hongzhuang, they were truly an enviable couple. There are some waves in Lu Qinyue's eyes. This matter really gave her too much of shock. Bailey Hongzhuang had once carried the title of trash, but in her opinion, Bailey Hongzhuang was not only strong, her medical skills were superb, and she was even a rare, peerless genius in alchemy. It was hard to believe that such a perfect woman had lived for 15 years in humiliation. Could it be that the people of Fengbo Country were all idiots? If that wasn't the case, why would they trample on a genius that any power would view as a treasure? Looking at Lu Qinyue's constantly changing expression, Gong Xiaoqing said, "No matter what the identity of Bailey Hongzhuang is, she is our friend." Hearing this, Lu Qinyue's mind shook. Big Brother Gong was protecting Hongzhuang? Big Brother Gong, who usually didn't care about worldly affairs, suddenly said this because he was worried that it would lead to some unfavorable speculations toward Hongzhuang. Dong Fangyu also nodded. "That's right. We only need to know that Hongzhuang is our friend. That's enough." Bailey Hongzhuang took Di Beichun for a tour around Azure Water School before bringing Di Beichun to the special enrollment dormitory. Looking at the door next door that already had Di Beichun's name hanging on it, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but sigh. Azure Water School's efficiency was extremely fast. Chapter 342. Di Beichun's gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang's door, teasing, "Wifey, won't you invite me in to sit? The new students' dormitories are all the same. If you want to sit, you can go directly into your room." Di Beichun's lips slightly rose, revealing a teasing smile. "Wifey's room is always different. That night, I came in too much of a hurry. I didn't see it too carefully, I'm afraid. I have to think about it." Following Di Beichun's voice, Bailey Hongzhuang's face flew up with a touch of red clouds. She naturally understood what Di Beichun was talking about. If she was not defenseless, how could she let Di Beichun take advantage of her? Shame, shame, shame. "Kacha." Bailey Hongzhuang opened the door. "Come in." Di Beichun's smile widened a bit, stepping into Bailey Hongzhuang's room. Although his wifey was completely capable of taking care of herself, but she was still very shy about this kind of thing, making his heart soften. "Are you really going to cultivate at the Azure Water School?" Bailey Hongzhuang's elegant and refined face revealed some doubts, looking at Di Beichun with some puzzlement. Although the Azure Water School was the most ideal place for cultivation in the minds of many cultivators, but that was only for low-level cultivators. The black and white fluff balls had already told her before that Di Beichun's strength was very strong. To be able to make the black and white fluff ball say that Di Beichun was very strong, his strength was truly strong. It was precisely because of this that the Azure Water School would not be of much help to Di Beichun. Di Beichun's mouth hooked up in an evil, charming arc, smiling ambiguously and warmly. "Wherever wifey is, your husband will naturally be there." Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Di Beichun. This guy's words were so ambiguous, simply not proper. "You're so talkative, I'm seriously asking you." Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black, jade-like beautiful eyes revealed some helplessness. She said with a straight face. Di Beichun smiled handsomely. "What I said is also true." Bailey Hongzhuang was speechless for a while. Just as she was about to speak, she saw the seriousness in Di Beichun's eyes. Her eyes suddenly focused. What he said was true, but Bailey Hongzhuang did not understand. Why did he want to stay with her at the Azure Water School? With Di Beichun's identity, he could be called a proud son of the heavens. She had told him all's herbs. She had already told him all the herbs is his herbs. The herbs she had told these fine herbs stays. Teat, if it's for your body, you can come back to me after you found all the herbs. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. Di Beichun stared at Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. A complex look flashed through his black pupils. "To me, you're not a doctor." Without waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to speak, Di Beichun continued. "No matter where I practice, it's still practice. You don't have to worry about me." Bailey Hongzhuang also fell into silence. It was really hard to explain. The relationship between the two of them seemed to have a trace of ambiguity that was hard to say. "Come in." Suddenly, Di Beichun said towards the door. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows showed a trace of doubt. She did not know what Di Beichun meant. Was there someone outside the door? As soon as his voice fell, the door was opened. Hey Moo, dressed in black, walked in, seeing Bailey Hongzhuang. He bowed and said, "Miss Bailey." Hey Moo. Chapter 343. Now that she saw the two of them again, her heart was filled with an indescribable joy. It was just that she did not show it in front of Di Beichun. Di Beichun saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was so happy to see Hey Moo, and a trace of astonishment appeared in his dark eyes. Wasn't this a little too enthusiastic? Could it be that his wife liked Hey Moo's type? Miss Bailey. Hey Moo's face was filled with guilt. When His Highness left, he left me in charge of your safety. I didn't think that I would fail to protect you during the demonic beast rampage and put you in danger. Hey Moo, I really don't have the face to see Miss Bailey and His Highness anymore. Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned. Earlier, when the black and white furballs had warned her, she knew that someone had been following her. Originally, she had wanted to wait and see who was following her. Later, she found that this person had been following her like a shadow and had not done anything harmful. It was because of this that she did not find out who was following her. She did not expect that Hey Moo had been following her all this time. No wonder Di Beichun had rushed over after the demonic beast rampage. She knew that Di Beichun could not have found out that she had met with danger during the demonic beast rampage so quickly. So it was Hey Moo who had told him. An excited smile appeared on Xiao Hei's face. Di Beichun definitely likes Master. Otherwise, why would he ask Hey Moo to protect her? Hey Moo is Di Beichun's personal hidden guard. I think so too. Otherwise, why would Di Beichun be in such a hurry to come back? Xiao Bai nodded in agreement. Bailey Hongzhuang listened to Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai's conversation, and her mind was filled with thousands of thoughts. She naturally understood that Di Beichun had left Hey Moo by her side. It was clear that Di Beichun valued her greatly, but the demonic beast rampage happened too suddenly. This is very normal. You don't have to take it to heart. Bailey Hongzhuang comforted her. This was completely an accident, and it was not something that could be changed by human means. She could completely understand why Hey Moo couldn't save her in time. Not to mention Hey Moo. Even she was helpless at such a crucial moment, wasn't she? It was already not easy for Hey Moo to survive the demonic beast tide. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Hey Moo felt even more apologetic. He didn't complete the task given to him by the young master. Seeing Miss Bailey being so understanding, he felt even more guilty. Miss Bailey, I promise that I will never put you in danger again. Hey Moo's expression was serious. Once was enough for such a mistake. If there was a second time, there was no need for the young master to say anything. He could just go and die. Di Beichun narrowed his eyes as he observed the situation between Bailey Hongzhuang and Hey Moo. Suddenly, he heard Hey Moo vow that he wouldn't put Bailey Hongzhuang in danger. Why did he feel that something was wrong? It looked like he would have to find someone else to protect Bailey Hongzhuang in the future. He couldn't leave any threat behind. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Hey Moo, you don't have to worry too much. Just protect Di Beichun well. Di Beichun waved his hand. Hey Moo, since my wife has already forgiven you, you can leave. Hey Moo nodded and turned to leave the room. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichun. Her clear eyes were filled with gratitude as she slowly said, Thank you. Chapter 344. Di Beichun's gaze landed on the white lion in Bailey Hongzhuang's arms. This is the demon pet you obtained from the royal hunting competition? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's right, it's him. I named him White Lion. White Lion. Good name. Di Beichun stroked White Lion's head. This little guy is quite cute. Bailey Hongzhuang patted White Lion's head. Ever since Di Beichun arrived, this little guy had been burying his head. Only its white furry body could be seen, but not its appearance. After being patted by Bailey Hongzhuang, White Lion raised his head and looked at Di Beichun. When Di Beichun saw White Lion's appearance clearly, shock surfaced on his extraordinarily handsome face. His hand touched the king word on White Lion's head. The shock in his eyes had yet to dissipate. This is actually a beast king? Seeing that Di Beichun and Mo Yinjua back then had generally said that White Lion was a beast king, Bailey Hongzhuang also confirmed White Lion's identity. You know about beast kings? Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes slightly raised. I don't know much about beast kings. Can you introduce them? Di Beichun nodded. Naturally, no problem. From Di Beichun's introduction, Bailey Hongzhuang had a certain understanding of the beast king's identity. As it turned out, this beast king had only appeared a few hundred years ago. In her previous life, beast kings didn't exist, so she didn't know anything about them. A few hundred years ago, there was a huge change in the demonic beast forest. Many demonic beasts went extinct, and some new demonic beasts were born. Beast kings were the most special and the most powerful among these newly born demonic beasts. Once a beast king appeared, all demonic beasts bowed their heads. A beast king was an existence that commanded all demonic beasts. The most special thing was that there was always only one beast king. Only when the old beast king fell would a new beast king appear. Therefore, the beast king was an extremely terrifying existence. Logically speaking, it was impossible for a beast king to become a cultivator's contracted beast. However, it had now become Bailey Hongzhuang's contracted beast. This was simply too unbelievable. The royal family is actually so generous? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. I'm afraid that even they themselves don't know what kind of demonic beast is sealed in this demonic beast egg. Deep Bachin nodded. A beast king is a precious pet beast that many forces would scramble to get their hands on. If the royal family knew about this, they definitely wouldn't have offered it as a reward. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. From the fact that Baishir was able to stop the monstrous beast tide with a single roar, one could see how extraordinary Baishir was. If the royal family knew about this, they would probably regret it so much that their intestines turned green. When Di Beichan saw that Bailey Hongzhuang did not seem to care, he could not help but emphasize Baishir's identity should not be exposed. Once others know about it, it will inevitably be coveted. At that time, you'll be in danger. A man's wealth is his own ruin. Based on Bailey Hongzhuang's current level of power, she was still unable to protect Baishir. Seeing Di Beichan's serious expression, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I understand. Then what do you plan to do? Di Beichan frowned. Since Baishir was Bailey Hongzhuang's pet beast, it would naturally follow her around. It couldn't possibly stay in the house every day, could it? A confident and enchanting smile appeared on the corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips. I have my own ways. Di Beichan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang suspiciously. However, Bailey Hongzhuang always had her own unique methods. Chapter 345. After I left this time, I also inquired about the Lan family situation, Di Beichan slowly said. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed, and a serious expression appeared on her pure and beautiful face. How was it? That jade pendant was her only proof of identity. Ever since she found out she wasn't Bailey Jintian's biological daughter, she had always worn it in front of her chest. She also wanted to know more about her origins. Di Beichan pursed his thin lips, his handsome eyes heavy. The Lan family sealed off the news very tightly. I sent people to inquire about it, but the Lan family members all kept their mouth shut about this matter. However, it still confirmed that Lan Yunxiao had a falling out with the family. Furthermore, it happened exactly 15 years ago. As soon as he said this, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed. The time matched, plus the matter of the jade pendant. If there was no accident in the middle, she was afraid that this was her real identity. Did you find out why Lan Yunxiao had a falling out with the family? Bailey Hongzhuang was puzzled. Since Lan Yunxiao was the Lan family head's most beloved son and was very likely to become the next successor of the Lan family, then there was no reason for Lan Yunxiao to fall out with the family. Di Beichan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a complicated expression. I also heard some news. I'm afraid it was because of you that Lan Yunxiao fell out with the family. Bailey Hongzhuang was startled. Because of me? Di Beichan nodded. That's right. This news was very secretive. Even after I inquired about it many times, I only found a few words. However, after piecing together the information, I roughly understood the truth. Do you remember your dantian shattering? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, as deep as an ancient well, rippled. You mean to say that the reason why Lan Yunxiao and the Lan family became enemies was because my dantian was broken? Could it be that my dantian shattering was caused by someone? When this conjecture appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's mind, her eyes instantly turned sharp. All along, she had thought that the shattering of her dantian was caused by her birth. After all, the world was full of wonders. Although it was rare for a newborn to have their dantian shattered, it was not unheard of. But if all of this was man-made, then the 15 years of suffering that Bailey Hongzhuang had suffered were all caused by this person. That's very likely. Di Beichen's face darkened, his expression unfathomable. That's why Lan Yinxiao left the Lan family with his wife and daughter. In that case, the person who destroyed my Dantian is from the Lan clan. Bailey Hongzhuang was very smart. Although Di Beichen did not say it clearly, she had already analyzed the situation. If this was true, then there was no doubt that she was carrying hatred. At that time, I was just a child. How cruel was the other party to actually attack a child? A baby in swaddling clothes actually had his Dantian forcefully destroyed. What kind of pain was that? What kind of hatred did the other party have for them to be so cruel? I haven't found out about this matter yet. It's obviously the Lan family's top secret, but I will find out more. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. With Lan Yunxiao's status in the Lan family, the person who wanted to attack him was definitely someone with a high status in the Lan family. Moreover, for a large family of cultivators like the Lan family, a baby in swaddling clothes being murdered was no less than a huge scandal. Chapter 346. Back then, the Lan family should have had someone who competed with Lan Yunxiao for the position of family head. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes as a wise luster flashed through them. As the head of an aristocratic family in her previous life, she was no stranger to the family's methods. In order to compete for the position of family head, many people had become sacrificial lambs. Fortunately, she had used her strength to intimidate everyone, so no one dared to lay a hand on her. However, she had seen many similar things in other families. All kinds of despicable and filthy methods. If it wasn't for everyone's support, the birth of every family head must have been through bloodshed. Di Beichen's gaze focused on Bailey Hongzhuang. She really had an exquisite heart. He didn't need to say anything, as she had already seen through everything. That's right, Lan Yunxiao's eldest brother, Lan Jingquan. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a cold smile. With this, she could almost determine who was the mastermind behind the scenes. Lan Jingquan is now the Lan family's family head. His daughter, Lan Qingyan, is also a well-known genius. She is extremely famous in the entire Shengxian continent. It is said that his daughter, Lan Qingyan, has extraordinary talent. Once she started cultivating, she showed extraordinary results. In recent years, her reputation has been resounding. Lan Qingyan is favored by the entire Lan family. In the future, she will most likely become the Lan family's first female family head. It seems that this Lan Qingyan is not an ordinary person. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes concealed a sharp light. The first female family head and everyone's support. She must have extraordinary abilities. Di Beichen nodded slightly. Lan Qingyan is indeed not simple. However, she mostly cultivates by herself. I have never seen her before. No wonder Lan Yunxiao ended up being hunted down after falling out with his family. It turns out that the other party is also an extraordinary person. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a smile, but her eyes were cold. Previously, she didn't know about her background. Now that she knew that her parents became enemies with the family because of her unfair treatment and ended up being hunted down, the killing intent in her heart almost solidified. She could almost imagine that with Lan Yunxiao's noble status in the Lan family, if he let bygones be bygones, he would still be the successor of the family head. Even if one of her children was disabled, she could still give birth to another one. But Lan Yunxiao didn't. For her sake, he had turned against his entire family. He had given up all his glory and wealth just to seek justice for his daughter. Even if Lan Yunxiao was powerful, how could he rely on his mother's strength to deal with the entire Lan family? In Bailey Hongzhuang's heart, the Lan family had already been listed as an enemy. Even though she was also a member of the Lan family, she had severed all ties with the Lan family ever since the Lan family treated her unfairly. Di Beichen noticed the change in Bailey Hongzhuang's expression. When he felt the murderous aura that had almost solidified, a look of shock appeared in his eyes. Murderous aura was a very mysterious thing. It was related to the strength of the cultivator. The stronger the cultivator's strength, the more blood they had experienced, and the stronger the murderous aura they could emit. However, such a dense murderous aura completely exceeded Bailey Hongzhuang's current cultivation. What exactly had Bailey Hongzhuang experienced? Even he might not be able to emit such a terrifying murderous aura. Chapter 347. No one will be able to calmly accept such a background. If Lan Yunxiao and his wife died here, then Bailey Hongzhuang would have to bear a blood feud. Thinking of the enormous Lan family, Di Beichen's heart sank. Did you find out if my parents are still alive? Even someone as calm as Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but feel nervous when she asked this question. She had never seen her parents, but she could feel their love for her. She only hoped that they were still alive so that they could be reunited one day. Otherwise, no matter how enormous the Lan family was, she would completely destroy this family that had destroyed her family. After Lan Yunxiao and his wife left the Lan family, there was no news of them. I've already started investigating, but I haven't received any news yet. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with some worry. Lan Yunxiao and his wife's current situation was probably Bailey Hongzhuang's greatest obsession. After all, anyone would be extremely concerned about this. It was because of this that he immediately went to inquire about Lan Yunxiao and his wife's whereabouts after he was almost certain of Bailey Hongzhuang's identity. Unfortunately, the Lan family had been very secretive when this incident happened. Moreover, Lan Yunxiao and his wife had been hiding from their pursuers, so their route was very well hidden. Even though he had sent many people to inquire about them, he still hadn't received any useful information. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression didn't change. This result wasn't out of her expectations. Lan Yunxiao had been pursued back then. From the fact that Qin Yun had adopted her and her swaddling clothes were covered in blood, it could be seen how desperate the situation had been. Since Lan Yunxiao was hiding from his pursuers, he must have done his best to hide his escape route. It was naturally more difficult for Di Beichen to investigate this now, but she believed that if Lan Yunxiao and his wife were still alive, they would definitely come back to find her. From the fact that they had risked their lives for her safety, it could be seen how deep their love was for her. If they hadn't come back, then everything pointed to disaster. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart sank at this thought. If they had really died, she would definitely make the entire Lan family accompany her parents in death. Di Beichun placed a hand on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder and gently patted her back. Wife, let's take things step by step. We'll eventually understand everything. Sensing Di Beichun's heartfelt concern, the coldness in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes faded a little. Turning to look at Di Beichun, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, a trace of emotion flashed through her eyes. Back then, Bailey Beichun to help the Lan Yunxiao and Bailey to help her. When Di Beichun returned, he would be busy with a lot of things. He Mu was left behind to protect her, and he also sent people to help her inquire about the Lan family. Bailey Hongzhuang to the Baileys to Bailey to Bailey. His thoughtfulness exceeded her expectations. She was indescribably moved. She, Bailey Hongzhuang, had always been the kind of person who respected her 10 times over. For Di Beichun to treat her like this, she would remember it all in her heart. Thank you for helping me gather so much information. Bailey Hongzhuang's black eyes flickered with emotion. Her voice was sincere. You've worked hard during this time. Di Beichun also sighed in relief when he saw that Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't immersed in sorrow. Chapter 348. The Lan family, in a place like Fengbo country, simply understood what kind of colossus the Lan family was. Even the entire Fengbo country could be easily destroyed by the Lan family. The two were not on the same level. The Lan family had existed in the Shengxian continent for many years. It was impossible to fight against the entire Lan family with one person's strength. In the Shengxian continent, new forces were born every day and old forces were destroyed. However, when a force became a colossus with many years of history, it was extremely difficult for it to be destroyed. This was because every force with a long history had an extremely huge foundation. As the saying goes, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. After reaching a certain level, even if they fell into a difficult situation, it would only be a short period of silence. They would only need a short period of time to recover. He did not know if the current Bailey Hongzhuang could understand what kind of force the Lan family was. He was also worried that after his introduction, Bailey Hongzhuang would fall into an extreme state. If Bailey Hongzhuang was frightened by the Lan family's colossus and could not recover, this was not what he wanted to see. However, if Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was filled with vengeance and could no longer be happy, this was also not what he wanted to see. Fortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang was not like what he had imagined. She was indeed not an ordinary woman. I only want you to be happy. Di Beichen's voice was warm and sincere. Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips slightly pursed. Her calm face did not show any emotion. I understand. One day, I will find out the truth. Everything that the Lan family has destroyed, I will make them pay back 1,000 times. Her deep black eyes flashed with an extremely cold light, hiding a power that could devour everything. An indescribable, domineering aura exploded from Bailey Hongzhuang's body. She had never cared about any colossus and never knew how to write the word fear. She only knew that everything depended on effort. People lived to do what they wanted to do. Embarking on the path of cultivation, it was also for the sake of living a happy life. If she gave up on her blood feud because of fear, then what was the point of talking about martial arts? She, Bailey Hongzhuang, was never afraid of anything. Since she had decided to do something, she would definitely do it. Di Beichen noticed the extreme flames flickering in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. He was deeply shocked. He never knew that there was such a powerful soul in Bailey Hongzhuang's body. From that pair of firm and confident eyes, he saw Bailey Hongzhuang's confidence and persistence. He had once heard from his master that what a cultivator needed the most was a fearless heart that pressed forward courageously. However, most cultivators did not. It was precisely because his master saw his fearless appearance that he made an exception and accepted him as his disciple. He never thought that his wife was also such a person. In that case, they really were a match made in heaven. You're right. It doesn't matter how big the Lan family is. As long as we have the determination, it's not impossible to succeed. The corners of Di Beichen's lips curled into an enchanting and bloodthirsty angle. A natural domineering aura of a ruler filled the air from within his body. That pair of deep eyes rippled with a bright luster of confidence. The greatest meaning of life was to fight for what one wanted to do in one's lifetime. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with astonishment. She then curled her lips into an enchanting smile of understanding. Chapter 349. Don't you think that my idea is very unrealistic? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her phoenix eyes slightly as an enchanting smile appeared on her elegant and refined face. Di Beichen's lips curled into a devilish smile as he wrapped an arm around Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder. No matter what my wife wants to do, your husband will naturally accompany you. Besides, what others may think is unrealistic may not necessarily be unrealistic to us. As Di Beichen spoke, the smile on Bailey Hongzhuang's lips widened. She had only realized today that they were the same kind of people. They didn't know what the word fear meant. Xiao Bai, don't you think that Master and Di Beichen look alike? Xiao He asked. Xiao He nodded in agreement. No wonder the two of them could become a couple. They're both evildoers. To others, making such a decision might be too crazy. However, whether it was Master or Di Beichen, they had already considered the feasibility of the matter before making such a decision. Master naturally didn't have to say much. She had been the head of an aristocratic family in her previous life and naturally knew the difficulty of destroying an aristocratic family. It was because she had such an understanding of aristocratic families that she also understood the conditions needed to destroy an aristocratic family. There was no power that would never fall. It was just a matter of when a more powerful person who could destroy this power would appear. Bai Shi, who was in Bailey Hongzhuang's arms, also raised his head to look at Master and Di Beichen. He had to admit that these two were truly evildoers. With these two fearless people together, the Lan family would be in for a bad time. Then, my wife, what do you plan to do next? Di Beichen asked with a gentle smile. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. Food must be eaten one bite at a time, and roads must be walked one step at a time. My current abilities aren't enough to fill the gaps between the Lan family's teeth. Naturally, I'll cultivate and increase my cultivation first. Once I have a certain level of ability, I'll contact the Lan family. She had already waited for 15 years. Naturally, she didn't mind waiting a little longer. My wife's decision is very good. Di Baichen smiled and nodded. That was a long-term goal. Right now, taking every step well was the most important thing. Don't worry, I'll help you find out about the Lan family. Then I'll have to trouble you. Between you and me, there's no need for thanks. Di Baichen whispered into Bailey Hongzhuang's ear, his voice gentle and full of charm. Bailey Hongzhuang felt a warmth on her neck, and her ears trembled. She immediately took 2 steps back. After all, this kind of appearance was really too ambiguous. Di Baichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's red ears, and the smile in his eyes deepened. His wife might assess this. Bailey Hongzhuang had the long-term goal of dealing with the Lan family, and he also had the long-term goal of capturing Bailey Hongzhuang's heart. His wife would not give up, and he would not give up either. Di Baichen's arrival set off a wave of excitement in the Azure Water School. However, after learning about the relationship between Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang, the excitement subsided. The female students who originally thought that Dongfang Yu had no hope were once again rekindled. Since Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang were a couple, then Dongfang Yu was still the male god in their hearts. In a short time, Dongfang Yu's reputation once again increased. He became the object of a group of female students' infatuation. Chapter 350. This auction was one that the students of the Azure Water School were eagerly looking forward to. The 3-channel opening pills would not be sold to outsiders and would be sold to the students of the school. Just this point alone made the students have a good impression of Bailey Hongzhuang. If it was someone else, they would only want to obtain more benefits and would not leave the channel opening pills to their classmates. Bailey Hongzhuang got up early. The auction would be held in a while, and there would be many students coming, so she had to be prepared. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang opened her door, Di Baichen's door also opened. Therefore, as soon as Bailey Hongzhuang opened her door, she saw Di Baichen's bright smile. "Wife, did you dream of me last night?" Di Baichen blinked his charming eyes and smiled ambiguously. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Di Baichen. The corners of her mouth hooked up into an enchanting and crafty arc. "I dreamed of a bear last night. I wonder if it was you." Uffed. Xia Jiqing had just entered the special enrollment dormitory when she heard the conversation between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen. She could not help but laugh out loud. The sudden laughter made Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen look towards the source of the sound. They saw Xia Jiqing wearing a purple gauze dress slowly walking over. "Hongzhuang, you husband and wife are really interesting." Xia Jiqing's smile did not disappear. "I didn't mean to eavesdrop on your conversation." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Xia Jiqing helplessly before turning her gaze to Di Baichen. Di Baichen shrugged his shoulders, his expression innocent and pure. He also did not know that Xia Jiqing would appear at this time. "Jiqing, why did you come so early?" Bailey Hongzhuang's light and sweet voice was filled with joy. The corners of her mouth opened into a smile that was as gorgeous as cherry blossoms. Xia Jiqing shook her head, her expression a bit exaggerated. "I'm not early. There are already many students waiting outside your dormitory. Today, I originally planned to come later, but my roommate woke up early and the students in the next room had already left. I also got up. Just now, it took me a lot of effort to squeeze out of the crowd and come to your special enrollment dormitory." Xia Jiqing said helplessly. This scene was really beyond her expectations. She could almost imagine how popular today's auction would be. "Are there a lot of people outside already?" Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and asked. Xia Jiqing nodded again and again. "That's not an ordinary amount. It's simply a sea of people." Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. There was still some time before the auction began. She had woken up early to prepare. She hadn't thought that the students would arrive even earlier than her. It could be seen just how attractive the channel opening pill was to them. "Gotcha!" The sound of the door opening could be heard. The seriously injured Bai Junyu also walked out after hearing Xia Jiqing's voice. "Jiqing, you've come," Bai Junyu said with a smile. Xia Jiqing looked at Bai Junyu, whose face was still a bit pale, but was much better than before. She smiled and said, "Your injuries have recovered quite well. It's all thanks to Hong Zhuang. Otherwise, I'm afraid I would have lost my life." Bai Junyu looked at Bailey Hong Zhuang, his eyes filled with gratitude. From a moment he was bitten by the monster beast, he had fallen into despair. He was afraid that he would not be able to keep his right hand and would never be able to become an outstanding cultivator in the future. Chapter 351. Great kindness couldn't be expressed with words of thanks. This kindness was deeply engraved in his heart. His life was saved by Bailey Hong Zhuang. Bailey Hong Zhuang lightly smiled. "It's your own luck that allowed you to recover so quickly. In a few more days, you'll be able to completely recover." Bai Junyu had been staying in his room all day and was bored to death. Seeing that everyone had come out today, he also wanted to come out and join in the fun. Bai Junyu smiled and nodded. "I'm looking forward to my injuries recovering quickly so I can move around. It's too boring right now." Xia Jiqing glanced at Bai Junyu. Bai Junyu was such a chatterbox that no one talked to him all day. It was indeed very boring. Just as everyone was talking, Dong Fangyu, Gong Shaoqing, and Lu Qinyue also came down from upstairs. Everyone's early. Lu Qinyue's face was brimming with a bright smile. "We wanted to come out earlier, but we didn't expect you all to already be together." Bailey Hong Zhuang lightly smiled and nodded. "Not only are we early, the students participating in the auction seem to be even earlier." "Oh." Lu Qinyue raised her eyebrows in surprise. "Isn't there still some time before the auction starts?" The temptation of the channel opening pill for cultivators is huge. Bai Junyu laughed out loud. "These past few days, I heard that the students of the school have been searching everywhere for treasures for today's auction." Xia Jiqing sized up Lu Qinyue in front of her. She felt that Lu Qinyue usually wasn't this cheerful. She wasn't interested in Lu Qinyue. She was never interested in such a soft and weak girl. Moreover, looking at Lu Qinyue and Hong Zhuang getting along, there was always an indescribable feeling in her heart that made her want to guard against Lu Qinyue. However, today, this feeling seemed to have dissipated a bit. Why was that? Xia Jiqing frowned. For a moment, she couldn't figure out what the problem was. Dong Fangyu's gaze fell on Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Beichun, who was standing beside her. His eyes once again darkened. However, in the blink of an eye, he returned to his usual sunny and warm self. "Since we're all ready, why don't we go out and take a look?" "That's good too." Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled, revealing her beautiful dimples. "Let's go out." Di Beichun leisurely followed behind Bailey Hong Zhuang as they walked out of the dormitory. His lazy and casual gaze fell on Dong Fangyu from time to time. Even though Dong Fangyu's expression changed extremely quickly, it still didn't escape his eyes. That expression was clearly one of sadness and desolation from not being able to obtain it. As a man, he was very clear about the meaning of such an expression. It seemed that Dong Fangyu's feelings were deeper than he had imagined. Fortunately, Dong Fangyu still hadn't expressed his feelings. His wife was still very slow when it came to emotions. Di Beichun rejoiced in his heart. Thinking about it this way, his wife's dullness might not be a bad thing. Heimu was very sad. In the past, he had always been a young master's secret guard. After the young master left, he was responsible for protecting Miss Bailey's safety. Now that the young master had returned, he should naturally be the young master's personal secret guard. But just yesterday, the young master had told him to stay hidden and that he didn't need to follow him all the time. Heimu was puzzled. What did he do wrong? Chapter 352. When Bailey Hong Zhuang and her group arrived outside the dormitory building, everyone was shocked by the sea of people in front of them. Bai Junyu opened his mouth wide, his handsome face full of astonishment. This is too many people, right? Except for the day of the freshman assessment, he had never seen so many students gathered together. Xia Jiqing was also speechless. When she came in, there weren't so many people. In such a short time, the number had increased. Looking at the distance, there was still a steady stream of students gathering. Presumably, when the auction started, it would really be a sea of people. The corners of Dongfang Yu's mouth curled up into a smile, his eyebrows revealing a hint of ridicule. Hongzhuang, this auction of yours is too grand. The entire special enrollment dormitory is packed. Bailey Hongzhuang laughed. At that time, she had proposed this because they were blocked in front of the dormitory door. At that time, she didn't think that there would be so many students here today. According to this trend, she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to stay near the dormitory. Lu Qingyue stared at the scene in front of her. When she looked at Bailey Hongzhuang again, her eyes couldn't help but have a trace of envy. As an alchemist, she was very clear about the significance of the lost pill recipes. Before Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, she was the alchemist genius in Songlan City. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang was not only a second-grade alchemist, but she was also a godly doctor with superb medical skills. She was younger than her and had lost pill recipes in her hands. As a disciple of the vice principal, although she also had some pill recipes, those pill recipes were very common and couldn't be compared with the lost pill recipes. She thought that there were few young people who could compare with her in alchemy, but since Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, she seemed to have been pulled down from the altar. Her heart couldn't help but feel a bit lonely. Di Baichen's eyes were full of appreciation and pride. His wife was different from the rest. No matter what she did, she was always the center of attention. There are more and more people coming. I'm afraid it won't be possible to hold the auction here. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows wrinkled, her eyes falling on the students who were constantly rushing over. In my opinion, we might as well go to the morning assembly square to hold the auction. Dongfang Yu's smile was handsome and sunny. There's a high platform there, and the surroundings are spacious enough. You can stand on the high platform and hold the auction. It will be more convenient for us to assist from the side. Listening to Dongfang Yu's proposal, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. Morning assembly square, can we use it? The morning assembly square was usually used. She knew that it was the best place to hold the auction, but she was worried that it wouldn't be suitable. Dongfang Yu waved his hand, his smile as bright and brilliant as the morning sun. It doesn't matter. Leave this matter to me. Long, Bailey Hongzhuang's of Suvs. I'll have to trouble you then. I of the of Hongzha is of A's, I of them, of course of I of. Okay. Gong Xiaoqing replied in a deep voice. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were full of gratitude. Whether it was Dongfang Yu or Gong Xiaoqing, ever since she came at Songlan School, both of them had helped her a lot. Chapter 353. When the students outside the dormitory saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walk out, their eyes were filled with fiery anticipation. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang announced the auction of the channel opening pill, they had been looking forward to today. They had been searching everywhere for monster crystals, herbs, and other treasures, all for the sake of successfully bidding for the channel opening pill today. Although these things were not cheap, they still could not be compared to the channel opening pill. After all, these things could be obtained at any time, but one's cultivation could not be increased at any time. Normally, when cultivating in the school, there was a lot of competition. If one's cultivation speed could be slightly increased, then in the long run, the benefits would multiply. Junior Bailey, when will the auction begin? A man couldn't help but ask. Although the special enrollment dormitory wasn't small, with all the students gathered here and constantly trying to push forward, it was not a comfortable feeling. Most of the people have already arrived. Why don't we start now? That's right, let's start the auction now. Following this man's words, the others also followed suit. Almost no one in the entire Azure Water School was willing to give up on the auction of the channel opening pill. The earlier the auction began, the less competition there would be. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into an indifferent and beautiful smile. She raised her hands slightly, indicating for everyone to quiet down. Even in the face of so many students, Bailey Hongzhuang was still calm and composed, not showing the slightest hint of nervousness. Today's auction has so many students, it's really beyond my expectations. Everyone came so early, and in such a crowded place, it must be very uncomfortable. After Bailey Hongzhuang opened her mouth, the originally noisy environment miraculously quieted down. Everyone's gaze focused on Bailey Hongzhuang, carefully listening to her words. Di Beichun and the others sized up Bailey Hongzhuang. Her body seemed to have a calming power. Just a casual gesture or a casual sentence was enough to attract everyone's attention. This was a very special ability, also known as leadership. It was not something that anyone could possess. Everyone nodded. What Bailey Hongzhuang said was exactly what they were thinking. Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't the only one who didn't expect so many students to come. Even they didn't expect it. It was said that many cultivators who went out rushed back after hearing the news. Even the students who were in seclusion came out one after another. It was precisely because of this that there were so many students attending the auction. Even the headmaster's morning meeting did not have so many people. Therefore, I have decided to hold the auction at the morning assembly square. Thank you for your hard work. Bailey Hongzhuang had an apologetic look on her face. Everyone had rushed here early in the morning, and now they had to move again. It was inevitable that there would be some resentment. However, this was the only way for the auction to proceed smoothly. However, the crowd did not complain after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Instead, they turned around and walked towards the plaza. Compared to blocking the entrance of the special admissions students' dormitory, it was obviously more comfortable at the morning assembly square. Moreover, everyone knew that it was indeed not the time for the auction to begin, as Bailey Hongzhuang had mentioned. They had simply been too anxious to arrive. Looking at everyone's actions, the smile on Bailey Hongzhuang's face widened. Chapter 354. As the crowd moved to the morning assembly square, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also set off. Bai Junyu's injuries had not yet healed, and he should have stayed in the room to recuperate and avoid his injuries being touched. But after seeing such a lively scene, he did not want to stay in the room and immediately went to watch the auction with Xia Jiqing. Although Xia Jiqing was not interested in Bai Junyu's chatterbox, he was injured, so her attitude was a bit better. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived at the morning assembly square, Dong Fangyu was already waiting for them. Seeing Dong Fangyu, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and asked, "Senior Dong Fang, did the vice principal agree?" Dong Fangyu nodded. The vice principal has always been easy to talk to. Naturally, there is no problem. That's good. Bailey Hongzhuang was relieved, and her figure jumped directly onto the high platform. Di Beichun and the others also jumped onto the high platform. Bailey Hongzhuang stood in the middle of the high platform, and they stood on both sides of the high platform. Below the high platform, the crowd of students was already eagerly waiting, hoping that the auction would start soon. After a moment, Bailey Hongzhuang saw that the time was up and said, "The time is up. The auction will begin." As soon as the words came out, the crowd cheered. They were all looking forward to the auction. The morning assembly square of the Azure Water School faced the school's gate. Outside the gate, many cultivators stretched their heads to look at the situation. They were also very envious of the channel opening pill, but unfortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang had set the rules that only Azure Water School students could participate in the auction. They did not have the slightest chance. Even though they knew that they did not have the chance to bid, they did not want to miss this excitement. As long as they remembered who won the channel opening pill and when to find that person after the auction, they might have a chance. I believe that everyone already knows the method of this auction. The sun shone brightly on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. It was warm and beautiful, and the light of confidence lingered on her beautiful face. It was unforgettable. All eyes were on Bailey Hongzhuang, who was on the stage. Her every move made everyone feel like they were appreciating art. Because this auction will be held in our academy, we won't use gold coins to bid. The auction method is the same. The highest bidder wins, but it depends on the demon crystals, medicinal herbs, and things related to cultivation that you take out. Everyone nodded. They had already heard of the requirements, so they had been searching for these treasures for the past few days. Xia Jiqing frowned doubtfully. I understand the auction method, but everyone's things are different. It's difficult to determine the value of gold coins. How can this be auctioned? Bai Junyu shook his head awkwardly. He could not understand this point either. All the auctions he had attended had always used gold coins to bid for items. He had never heard of this kind of auction before. Lu Qinyue and the others' eyes were also filled with doubt. How could they judge? Dongfang asked Bailey Hongzhuang if she needs any help. Gong Shaoqing slowly said, The auction method that Bailey Hongzhuang proposed was too strange, increasing the difficulty of the auction. Chapter 355. I believe everyone understands that this kind of auction is very complicated. In order to simplify the auction process, I've thought of a way. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang curiously, not knowing what she had thought of. I prepared a pen and paper. Why don't everyone write down their names and the things they want to bid for? After I look at it, I'll choose the 3 pieces of paper with the highest value. These will be the 3 people who bid for the channel opening pill. What does everyone think? Bailey Hongzhuang's face rippled with a confident smile. This was the most efficient and time-saving method. Otherwise, who knew when the auction would end? When Bailey Hongzhuang proposed this method, everyone's eyes lit up. This could be said to be the best method. In this way, the entire process would be simplified and there would be no need to bid. At the same time, it would also avoid conflicts between students. I didn't think that Hongzhuang would be so smart. Xia Jiqing's face was full of praise. This method could easily solve all the difficult problems. Bai Junyu nodded in agreement. This is the first time I've heard of this method. In this way, the possibility of malicious bidding will be reduced. It's too wonderful. The worry between Dongfang Yu's brows had already dissipated and was replaced with an appreciative smile. See, we were worried for nothing. Gong Shaoqing's gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang was no longer a stupid woman. This method really made people sigh with admiration at her wisdom. This further proved that she didn't hold this auction for her own benefit. The auction used this method of bidding to maximize profits. Bailey Hongzhuang's actions until now had never placed profits at the top of her list. It could be seen that her original goal was to help the students of the academy. Di Beichen stood on the side of the stage with an indifferent expression. His deep and charming eyes were filled with appreciation and pride. His wife was naturally extremely smart. This kind of bidding method, even he couldn't help but sigh in admiration. After breaking away from her identity as the second miss of the general's estate, her radiance had become more and more dazzling. No one could associate her with the original second miss of the general's estate. She should have been born to shine brightly. Seeing the crowd of students nodding their heads without any objection, the smile on Bailey Hongzhuang's face widened a bit. She turned to look at Xia Jiqing and the others. I'll have to trouble everyone to help me distribute the pen and paper. Xia Jiqing was the first to agree. Leave it to me. Di Beichun, Dongfang Yu, and the others also came forward. Since Hongzhuang had asked them to do something, they naturally had to do it well. When the cultivators outside the academy saw this scene, they couldn't help but reveal a puzzled expression. Wasn't this an auction? Why didn't he start bidding? Instead, he picked up a pen and paper. Not far away, Principal Ren Tianxiong and Vice Principal Huan Chuyu stood together and observed the situation in the morning assembly plaza. This Bailey Hongzhuang is not only strong, but also very smart. Ren Tianxiong's calm eyes revealed a bit of appreciation. As the principal of the Azure Water School, he had seen many outstanding students. However, an outstanding student like Bailey Hongzhuang was rarely seen.